Good morning, beautiful humans, and welcome to Defense Diaries. I am your host, Bob Mata, and this is our continuing coverage of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts versus Karen Reed. Day 3. What surprises will today bring? It's never a dull day. Never a dull day here in Old Canton, Mass. I'm pumped. I don't know about y'all. Hold on, I gotta put some socks on. I feel a little bit like Mr. Rogers putting his shoes on, but my feet get chilly. So excited. It was another big day yesterday. Kerry Roberts lying to the grand jury. I mean, every day we're gonna get something. Every single day we're gonna get something. There's going to be witnesses that are slow, you know, especially the EMT, but it's never dull. It's never dull. We're going to get all of it. It's going to be exciting. My dear friend Josh Schiffer is going to be hanging at some point. I've been trying to get him on. He has a standing invite. I told him to pop in during the trial whenever he can. He's a busy dude. He still lawyers and he's on court TV all the time. So, but he loves hanging with y'all. I can tell you that. So he is popping in at some point today. I think he said he was going to try to make it for like the second 2/3 of the day. So we'll see. We'll see when that pops in. He's going to have the invite, so he'll just drop in. All of a sudden, it'll be a delicious surprise for all of us. If you guys don't know Josh, brilliant guy. Absolutely brilliant guy. Funny guy. Funny and brilliant. Those are the two adjectives that I'd use to describe him. I do need to put a cardigan on. I have a friend, one of my closest friends, is starting to wear cardigans, and he says it's the equivalent to wearing a warm hug. So he let me try it on, and I had to concur. It was very much like wearing a warm hug. So, all right, let me pull it up. Get this bad boy pulled up. See what we got here. You know what I'm going to try to do today? I'm going to try to make sure that we don't end the stream in the middle of trial. As much as I love tech wizardry, I don't love it that much. Let's try to keep the stream going today. That'll be an excellent that'll be kind of an excellent goal for me to really try to achieve. Once again, we'll be ad free for your enjoyment. I'm also going to make sure everybody's got their bingo. I'm on a real cold streak. I'm the only witness that I've gotten so far is Timothy Nuttall. That's the only one I've gotten. So I've been on a real dry streak. I think my card sucks though. Like I've just got people I can't see getting called. So, what are you going to do? Come see, come saw. It is what it is, right? So what are you guys thinking? I'm going to start a goal because I love you and I love to grift. You guys know I'm the grift king, apparently. So I'm going to fire that up right now. See what you guys are willing to do today. I'm gonna set it for as long as I can, which is 3 hours. So, all right. And I'll Bob Senior Puppet, man. That guy's coming. If you guys make it happen. If you haven't seen him, you don't want to check it out. He's pretty good. Pretty good. Uh, oh, they're my beautiful and brilliant co-host is still in bed. How snuggly is that? Oh, they can hear you. That's good. You woke up. You said you were tossing and turning all night, so I figured, you know. I know you make me feel guilty for speaking loud. Maybe you should go in the spare. See, y'all get the inner workings. Y'all get the inner workings. Colette, that is an amazing question. So we had tickets for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Oh yeah, Ellie's right. I am echoing. I'm hearing myself. It's freaking me out. All right. So, but Scarlett's got softball game at 9 on Saturday, so we're gonna take care of my parental duties and my coaching duties and do the game, and then Allie and I are coming down for Saturday, Sunday shows. So, for my morning jacket. I mean, you can't miss hometown shows. They're a Louisville band, so they always put on a great show. I mean, they're always great live, but they're especially great at home. And they added 2. They've got it's a five-night run. So, oh, you guys are coming in hot. You guys are beautiful. Look at y'all. J Dog, Jason McClellan, gifted TD at 10 DD memberships. Thank you so much, Jay. That's like I love when people gift memberships because it really grows the fam. Aw, family hugs. That's what we give over here. Some family hugs when we get new family members. And there's some people that are tight on cash that I know would love to be members. And when they get gifted the membership, it's awesome. It's awesome. Because we have another I think early next week, I'm going to schedule a second members only live where I want you guys to leave the voicemails. That was a blast. That was so cool. It was a lot of fun. I think that everybody enjoyed it. And it's great to be able to hear you guys because we are fam. So it's a really engaging way for us to hang out and you guys can ask us anything. So whether it be about cases, if you want to ask us about us, whatever you guys want to talk about. Everything's fair game. I'll post that link in the chat a few times today. It would be cool, hint hint mods, if we can get a like a bot thing for it. So we could just keep dropping that thing in. No, everybody sounded amazing. Everybody who left voicemail sounded amazing. It was so cool to be able to put a voice to a name. It's cool. Like don't no one should be shy about your voice not sounding good. That's ridiculous. Just leave a voicemail. It's great. It's so great. You guys are gonna really love it. I promise. It's fun. And it's cool to hear yourself. It just is. So I really encourage everybody to do that. So probably Tuesday, I'm thinking for the members only next week. So we're really trying to up the members game because we adore you guys. You guys are so important to keeping the channel alive. Um, So we really want to reciprocate that love and give it back. So thank you for that, Jason. Gen X girl lawyer, boom, $20 holla. Appreciate you so much, Gen X. We love like we have always givers that are always supporting, and you guys are amazing. Distracted therapist coming in hot with the $50. Thank you so much. That is amazing. So grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you 1,000 times over. Let's see. I just want to make sure we are live. We are live. So she's got 3 minutes to be on time. You know, she said she was going to be on time today. She said she's going to be on time today. Thank you so much, Distracted. We beyond appreciate that. Christy Silo, I'm still in bed too, cuddled up with you guys. Aw, love that. Thanks as always for your hard work. Thank you for hanging with us. There's a lot of competition out there. And we got friends out there that Melanie's crushing it. It's got a huge channel. We bring something a little different, you know. So we like it when people bounce around. I'll watch the numbers fluctuate, realizing people are jumping around. You got Melanie, you got Emily D. Baker. She's great, you know. And you've got others as well. I mean, this is the trial of the century, probably. So, I expect everybody who's got a true crime channel to be streaming this, unless you're afraid. Some are afraid to stream this trial just because of the online shit with it, man. It is a lot. It's like, my Twitter, you just see it on there. Ugh, it's so toxic over in Twitter world or X world, whatever you want to call it. But I like it. I like Twitter. I can't help myself. I know Megan wants me to go over to Blue Sky, and it's like I just like I it took me forever to build up that account, and it's like I don't have the bandwidth to start like the work of building a new account, because you have to put in the work. You just have to do it. So, and I got to focus on this and the podcast. And then, the Twitters, like as much as I have left in the tank. Thank you so much for that, Christy. Truly. Ramble T26. Bob, I have to ask, how bad was it yesterday when AJ said what he said to John O'Keefe's mom after visibly huddling beforehand and the jury saw? I didn't take it as a negative at all. At all. I think that collectively, you're going to talk with your teammates. You're going to talk with the rest of the defense team in terms of whether or not they think it's a good idea to cross her gently or just to let it go. So, he didn't ask her anything. Technically, you're not allowed to do that. Like, I'm surprised that the judge didn't raise hell, because that's the equivalent to him kind of testifying. It wasn't really a question. He just got up to make a statement, and that's not allowed. You have to ask questions. You can't get up there and testify as a lawyer. So, no, I thought it was the right move. Obviously, I didn't think. I had been saying I wouldn't touch Peggy O'Keefe with a 1,000-foot pole. I don't care how you feel about her. The woman lost two of her kids in a very short period of time, and you are going to do nothing but harm yourself in front of the jury if you're the lawyer and you go after a victim's mother. It's just facts. It's just facts. So thank you for your support, Ramble. And always give her puppet time. You guys are doing well. You're plowing towards that goal so early on. So we're good. All right. Bev's officially a minute late live. So, she tried. She tried, right, kids? She gave it the old college try. Member for 3 months, Malo. How do you pronounce Louisville? I pronounce it like it's supposed to be pronounced, which is Louisville, not Louisville. That's how people that don't live in Louisville pronounce Louisville. So it's basically Louisville. Louisville. Love that town. It's a great town. We spend a lot of time down there. We have some good friends that live down there, so and we usually crash with them. So it's always a good time. It's always a good time. Ah, Donna. Love you, Donna. So glad to be seeing your name in the chat. Yay, only fan. Getting ready to roll, kids. Thank you so much, Donna. I really, really appreciate that. And I know that the people that receive those tasty podcast memberships also are very grateful. So you get twice the love, Donna. You get a ton from me and you get a ton from everybody that was gifted a membership. So thank you so much. We're so happy you're here. Just Joe. Got some Canadian cash. Speaking of Canadians, I was just texting Ian this morning. I was like, hey man, he usually does like recaps because Ian still works during the day. But I'm like, hey man, you've got any free time, during the trial, make sure you come over here. So hopefully I'll be able to drag Ian out of bed or away from the courts at the tank for a minute. So thank you so much. That's weird. I think it is weird that 12 seconds the EMT police instructor acted, carried a return instead of going to her seems very strange. There was a lot strange about that
32117
entire
Commonwealth versus
situation.
Karen Reed.
Thank you so much.
All right, so I was told council wanted to see me.
Oh my God.
Good morning.
Just have one brief issue I want to raise for the court.
Okay.
I wanted to confirm whether experts in this case are permitted to watch testimony in order to prepare for rebuttal. We had asked for that.
For rebuttal, like post
Responding,
for responding. Okay.
in our case, for both sides.
Okay. What's your position? Ms. Little, you want to?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Brennan, is there any reason not to?
I need to give it some thought. I'm not willing to agree. I'll abide by whatever the court thinks is fair.
So why don't you think about it? We'll address it later today. Okay. There's no expert testimony today, right?
It's not.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Sure. Is that it? Ready to bring the jury in?
That's all.
You wanted a ruling on the clip from yesterday?
I did.
All right. You can play it.
Thank you.
All right. So we'll take a quick break.
Oh boy. So she's allowing the clip in. It's just like what she's saying doesn't matter, but it's just not a good look for Karen. You're going to see it if you haven't seen the clip. I mean, it's like she's like, again, you have to think of everything from the perspective of a juror. Don't think about it. Oh, well, this is how it makes me feel. Like, we don't matter. It's a 12 in the box, plus the alternates. That's who matters in this case. And they're going to play this clip of Karen kind of like mocking Peggy O'Keefe. Was it rightfully so? Maybe. I mean, but that's not going to matter. It's just a bat. I'm going to say it again. God forbid you're a defendant in a case. Don't talk to the media. Do not talk to the media. This is like exhibit 1A, why you don't do it. And Karen was all over the place. All over the place. So like, I don't know how many docs were done. Plus the interview with Voss. It's just like you're creating potential problems, and you're creating a lot more work for the lawyers to try to put things into context. Like, they're going to have to spend time. One of two things is happening. Either they're going to figure out a way to put the comments in context, because that's the other thing that you just don't know when you're filming like straight up video that's going to be edited and put together in a package, to be viewed by millions. And they're not saying, hey, all right, we got all the final edits done here. We're sending it over to you for final approval. It doesn't work like that. I mean, we experienced it on our Dateline episode. They made Allie look unhinged. It was all out of context, like all of it. It's like, that's just how they do. So, it's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. So they're either going to have to spend time and figure out a way to put the statements into context, or Karen Reed's going to have to testify. That's what those clips have done. They had the opposite effect. It didn't operate as her basically giving her testimony. I think it has now forced her to have to testify. Shit like that. Like a couple people tweeted at me and they're like, I don't think anybody's paying attention. I think that it might be, and I'm assuming it's a sub here or one of our viewers. They're like, yeah, I think it's a situation like, when a band takes a break and they pump in music, like nobody's paying attention to that. Like these people don't have anything else to look at other than that screen. And I'm talking about the jury. They're seeing it. Deja, we love you. And we also are bummed that you have to work. You can't chat. Thank you so much for your generosity. Always give her
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. All persons having anything to do before the Honorable Beverly Cannoni, the Justice of the Superior Court, now holding in Dedham within and for the County of Norfolk. Draw near, give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This court is in session. Please be seated.
Bev's looking fresh.
22-117, the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed.
All right. Good morning again, counsel. Good morning, Ms. Reed. Good morning, jurors. I have to ask you those same three questions. Were you all able to follow the instructions and refrain from discussing this case with anyone since we were here yesterday? Everyone said yes and nodded affirmatively. Were you also able to follow the instructions and refrain from doing any independent research or investigation into this case? Everyone said yes and nodded affirmatively. Did anyone happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case since we left here yesterday? No. Everyone said no or should be. Thank you very much. Will we bring Mr. Whitman back in, please? Ms. Gianetti, you can step up to the podium.
Thank you very much.
I think we had Whitley on the stand. I got to edit it on across.
Sir, I'll remind you, you're still under oath. Thank you.
I'm really getting screwed on this.
Mr. Whitley, yesterday you testified that when Karen Reed was brought to the hospital, she didn't want to get into a hospital Johnny and she didn't want to give a urine sample. Do you recall that testimony?
I do.
It was clear to you that her reluctance to cooperate at that time was because she very much wanted to check on John's progress and status at the hospital, correct?
No, I don't believe that to be the case.
Well, you testified before the grand jury regarding this matter 3 years ago, didn't you?
I don't believe I said that she was
I
reluctant.
didn't ask you that question. You testified before the grand jury 3 years ago, didn't you?
I testified before the grand jury 3 years ago.
You were under oath then, as you're under oath today, correct?
Correct.
You swore to tell the truth.
I am telling the truth.
You swore to tell the truth in 2022 before the grand jury, did you not?
I did.
That was less
Your
than 3
favorite
months
time?
after you brought
My
Karen Reed to
favorite
the
time.
hospital, didn't you?
Impeachment time.
Yeah.
And your memory of what happened at the hospital was very good in April of 2022, right?
As good as today.
Your memory in April of 2022 was very good, wasn't it?
It was very good as it is today.
Okay, so you want to add the as it is today, despite the fact that you weren't asked that question. Is that right?
Objection.
Sustained.
All right. When questioned by Mr. Lally at the grand jury, you were asked the following question. So what, if any, interaction did you have with her, meaning Ms. Reed, at the hospital once you were there? You remember that question, right?
I do.
And your answer was, after that, I helped escort her down to, they call it the psych hallway, where they have rooms set up for psychiatric patients for their evaluation. And then she was unhappy that she wasn't able to see him, meaning John. And she kept trying to. She didn't want to get into a hospital Johnny. She didn't want to, I believe, give a urine sample. She was not, the nurses were asking her to do certain things that every patient has to do, and she was not cooperating with them. Do you remember that answer?
I do.
So 3 years ago, when you testified about this issue of giving a urine sample, You testified under oath that you believed that she didn't want to give a urine sample, correct?
Correct.
Yesterday, 3 years later, you testified with certainty that she didn't want to give them, right?
Yeah, she was giving them a hard time about having to give a urine sample.
Right. No, I'm asking you about your testimony yesterday in contrast to the grand jury, sir.
Okay.
To the extent that I ask yes or no question, I'd like yes or no answers.
So
okay?
no instructions to the witness, Ms.
Your
Giannetti.
Honor,
Ask
may the
a
witness be
question.
instructed to answer the question yes or no if it calls for a yes or no question.
Sir,
Answer.
Answer the question.
Yanetti's coming in hot.
Okay.
Okay.
So go ahead, ask a question.
You testified yesterday that she didn't want to give a urine sample without saying it was your belief that she didn't want to give one, correct?
Correct.
In any case, were you aware that when she was asked to give a urine sample, that Ms. Reed had gotten her period and did not have a tampon?
I was aware she was on her period, yes.
You're also aware that when somebody is brought to the hospital for a Section 12, they have no privacy. Isn't that right?
They have medical privacy. Either the tech or the nurse would be with the patient at all times.
Okay. With them at all times, observing them at all times,
correct.
correct?
So they wouldn't be, she wasn't in like a hallway open to the public.
Understood, sir. But she also, when I said privacy, what I was asking is, she was not allowed to go to the bathroom alone to give a urine sample, correct?
She was a psychiatric patient.
Right. So she would have to use the bathroom in front of hospital personnel or some medical personnel with people watching her while she was on her period with no tampon, correct?
I would understand that to be true.
All right. And you're aware that she did cooperate and eventually give a blood sample as well, correct?
I'm not aware of a blood sample, but urine sample, yes.
She did give the urine sample.
Correct.
All right. Now, in your testimony yesterday, you discussed the topic of your memory of what Karen Reed may have asked you about John surviving in the snow with light clothing. You remember those questions?
I remember asking about not having a jacket, correct?
Now, starting at the end of the day, when I cross-examined you yesterday, I asked you about that topic and I said to you, you mentioned something about hypothermia, that you assumed you may have been dealing with a hypothermia situation. And your answer was, well, she said that he had been out in the snow without a jacket for many hours, correct?
Correct.
But before I cross-examined you at the end of the day yesterday, you previously testified 3 times about this topic, correct?
I believe it would be the grand jury and the previous trial.
Right. And direct examination when Mr. Brennan was asking you questions before I stood up, correct?
Okay, yes.
Let's start with the first time you testified about this topic back in 2022. That was, again, less than 3 months after you had a conversation with Ms. Reed at the scene on January 29th, correct?
Correct.
Her statements and questions to you at the scene were fresh in your mind in April of 2022, correct?
Correct.
In April of 2022, before the grand jury, Mr. Lally asked you, quote, what, if any, questions did she ask you regarding hypothermia? Do you remember that question?
I do.
Your answer was, she was just wondering if he could have survived outside in the cold even though he didn't have a jacket on. Do you remember giving that answer?
I do.
Nowhere in that answer in 2022, less than 3 months after these events, do you attribute the words, quote, many hours, end quote, in the snow to Ms. Reed, correct?
Yes, I was not.
I'm not asking for an explanation, sir. I'm asking for an answer.
All right. So he was answering you, Mr.
My
Yannetti.
question called for a yes or no answer. Nowhere in your answer in 2022 do you attribute the words many hours in the snow to Ms. Reed? Yes or no?
No, I did not say that at that point.
Nowhere in your answer in 2022 do you testify that Ms. Reed told you he had actually been in the snow for many hours, correct?
She did at that.
Sir, I'm asking you about your testimony.
I object.
So let him answer the question.
Let me ask it again. Nowhere in your answer in 2022 did you testify that Ms. Reed told you he had actually been in the snow for many hours, correct?
In 2022, I testified that I was just told to be brief and give generalizations. She quantified many hours in the snow when we were in back of the
Let me
ambulance.
try this again, sir.
So,
because
Ms.
I-
Giannetti, you're just saying 2022. Get to a
Of
date
course,
and a
yes.
place.
April of 2022, okay, before the grand jury. My question again, and I'm still seeking a yes or no answer from you, okay? Nowhere in your answer in April of 2022, before the grand jury, did you testify under oath that Ms. Reed told you that John had actually been in the snow for many hours, correct?
Not in 2022 of April, no.
Okay. The next time you testified under oath was last year in 2024, correct?
Correct.
During that testimony, Mr. Lally asked you, oh, by the way, so 2022 is no mention of many hours, right?
I did not, and I was told to be brief on the grand jury stand.
But again, no mention of
Right.
many hours in 2022.
Interesting.
Now, 2024, last year, Mr. Lally asked you, so Firefighter Whitley, at some point, specific to your conversations with the defendant, Ms. Reed, can you describe sort of her demeanor or any observations you made in relation to that as you were speaking with her? And your answer was, yes, she was very upset. She kept asking if there was any chance. She kept asking us if we knew if the person ambulance 1 had transported was alive or dead, and we could not speak to that. She asked if somebody could be alive in the snow without a jacket for many hours, correct?
Correct.
So in 2022, there was no mention of many hours. 2024, over time, now that's the first time that you mention the words many hours in your testimony regarding this case, correct?
Correct.
Right? And when you testified last year, you testified still that she was asking you a question about surviving in the snow, correct?
Correct.
So then we come to yesterday on direct examination. Do you recall that Mr. Brennan yesterday asked you, before you left, were you having any conversations with the defendant? And you answered yes. Recall that yesterday?
Is that at the hospital?
I'm asking you yesterday, do you recall Mr. Brennan asking you before you left essentially the scene, were you having any conversations with the defendant? And your answer was yes.
You're talking about Lee, I'm just trying to make sure we're talking about the same instance. Are we talking about when we left the hospital or when we left Fairview Road?
When you were at Fairview Road, leaving Fairview Road, we're talking about the same subject of what Ms. Reed supposedly told you or asked you. Okay, Mr. Brennan went into that with you.
So on the way to, you're talking on the way to the hospital in terms of left, when we left.
Well, before you left, he meant before you left the scene.
Okay,
When
no,
you
I'm
were-
just trying to clarify.
Again, it's the same conversation.
No, you're not.
Whitley. I'm not
So,
trying to talk to you.
Ms. Giannetti, he just asked for a point of reference. It's clear. Now go.
Understood.
Bullshit. He's done.
And Mr. Brennan said, can you share with the jury what those conversations were about? And your answer was, so we were talking, she was upset. She kept asking if there was any chance her husband could be alive, even sitting outside in the snow without any coat for many hours. Do you recall that answer that you gave yesterday on direct examination?
Yes.
And that was the first time that you mentioned that she said supposedly or asked supposedly about him sitting outside in the snow, correct?
I was just using phrases generally speaking.
Not my question.
I wasn't at that point I was paraphrasing. I was not speaking verbatim to what she said.
Let's try that again. That was the first time that you mentioned that she claimed or asked that he was sitting outside, correct?
It could have been sitting, laying, being.
Let's try it a third time.
So
Was that-
just ask the question, not let's try it,
Sure.
let's try it.
Was that the first time that you testified under oath that Ms. Reed said or asked about him sitting outside?
Are you asking me to clarify whether she used the
I'm not
word
asking
sitting?
to clarify anything. I'm asking you whether that was the first time yesterday during direct examination that you mentioned that she asked about him sitting outside.
I'm sorry, I am very confused because I'm trying to figure out if he was being outside, sitting outside.
I'm asking you about Ms. Reed's statements, sir. That's all I've been asking you about. Her
Okay.
statements to you and your testimony about her statements to you. Was yesterday on direct examination the first time that you testified under oath that Ms. Reed mentions the words sitting outside?
I don't know.
All right.
I'm just using, she might have said laying outside, being outside, outside.
Okay, so when you testified yesterday before this
Elevated.
jury
Yes,
that she mentioned the words sitting outside, you're now saying that that might not have been accurate, correct?
it could have been a different word.
Okay, but you didn't say it could have been a different word yesterday. You just left it as sitting outside, correct?
Yeah, that's what I said, sitting.
All right, so now we get from, the grand jury with many hours mentioned to questions about many hours to sitting outside to let's talk about what you said on cross-examination.
I object.
Okay, the objection sustained.
Sure. On cross-examination, your words were, she said he had been out in the snow without a jacket on for many hours, correct?
She had asked if he had been outside, if there was any chance he could be alive, even though he was outside without a jacket for many hours.
So it always was a question, correct?
It was a question.
She never said what you said on cross-examination yesterday, which was she said that he had been out in the snow without a jacket on for many hours. That was not a declarative statement by Ms. Reed, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow that. Was that a declarative statement by Ms. Reed?
She asked if he could be alive without a jacket in the snow for many hours.
So again, it was a question, sir.
She asked me, and we were just trying to give her hope in terms of telling stories of hypothermic patients that could survive outside in the snow.
Okay, is there any redirect?
Briefly.
Okay.
When you were called to the grand jury, was the testimony as in-depth and as long as it is in front of this jury?
No, not even close.
When you're recounting your memories of what happened, do you memorize word for word what you've said in the past?
Objection.
As to that form, it's sustained.
When you're recounting the past, do you record your statements personally?
Objection.
I'm going to let that one. Do you record your
Same
statement?
form.
No,
Next question.
When you testified in the grand jury, page 90, line 15, and you said the defendant told you, I'm upset if he dies, I want to die. And then you later testify last year, and you said, if my husband dies, I want to die. Do you notice the little differences between those phrases?
I do.
Is that you making up words?
No,
Is that you trying to help a case?
Objection.
As to form, that's sustained.
Are you inventing facts?
no,
Sir, when you were recounting what happened that day, are you using your best memory?
Objection.
When you were asked by the defendant about how long, or someone out in the snow without a jacket for many hours, do you remember that conversation with her?
I do.
Where were you during that conversation?
We were in the back of the ambulance.
you remember it distinctly?
I remember it distinctly. She was looking at me.
When you tried to give her hope and comfort and you told her stories about other situations where people, maybe children, have fallen through the ice and had hypothermia, did you have that conversation with her in trying to comfort her?
I did.
Do you remember that conversation?
I do.
Did you necessarily share those conversations with the grand jury?
I don't recall if I did or I didn't.
Did you ever write that in your report?
No,
Is it something you typically put everything in your report?
no, we do not write. Generally, we only write patient complaint, what happened, what they did, not their opinions or anything like that to what's going on.
Do you have any interest in the outcome of this case?
I do not.
How long have you been a firefighter for?
Since March of 2006 and an EMT since November of 2002.
Over 20 years.
Correct.
You said that you live near Kerry Roberts?
I do.
You've been to a block party for the kids where you've brought the fire engine down?
I do.
I'm going to allow it.
When you're at that block party, do you ever step out and have secret meetings with Kerry Roberts trying to corroborate some conspiracy on their behalf?
No. No.
Put your career on the line? No further questions.
Any follow-up, Mr. Yannetti?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Firefighter Whitley, you are all set, sir.
So I saw a couple of comments in the chat. Yannetti was definitely aggressive. You know, you have to weigh it when
Like you play clip 5, Your Honor?
that's planned. Come at somebody aggressively. The question is was it the right plan? Right. You know, I mean, you never know. Oh, here we go. Next clip. The one she granted.
And his mother leans over the kitchen island and says to me, I think it looks like he got hit by a car. It looks like he got hit by a car.
All right, who's your next witness, Mr. Brennan?
Next witness is Gene DeMoulis.
I hate that shit. Well, I just don't like that she allows it whenever he wants to put it in. It's just bizarre.
Okay.
So I've got some thoughts on that last witness. You know, Allie said it from the bed over there, but I was thinking the same thing. I'm like every one of these single first responders isn't lying. And to me, there's a very reasonable explanation as to why Karen may have been saying shit. And that's she was trying to figure out what happened in her mind, except out loud, like what any of us would do. I'd like to think if Allie discovered me dead, laying on somebody's front lawn, that she'd be out of her mind, that she'd be like trying to figure out loud what happened. I mean, it's such a reasonable explanation. None of these statements, to me, are in any way inculpatory. They're simply a human being who has lost somebody that is very important to them, trying to process the unprocessable. So when you kind of dig into these people, I don't know if it helps. I don't know. And they let a lot of this go the first trial. So it was obviously, oh, yeah, baby. What is up?
Hey, let me turn this off on my other screen. Come on.
Joshua Schiffer, the one and only. Welcome, 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 my brother.
I can't wait for today. It has been the wildest week. Let's see how scorchy this gets.
It should get interesting.
You can scooch in close to the microphone, thanks.
May I proceed?
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Jean DeMulis. I am the general manager at CF McCarthy's in Canton.
I'm going to ask you to keep your voice up, if you would, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
You said you're the general manager at CF McCarthy's?
In Canton, yes.
Thank you. How long have you been the general manager at CF McCarthy's in Canton for?
For 6 years.
Can you briefly describe for the jury what CF McCarthy's is?
It is a restaurant and bar.
At CF McCarthy's, is there a video surveillance system inside?
Yes.
Who owns that video surveillance system?
CF McCarthy's.
Are you familiar with the video system?
Yes.
Have you ever looked at it before?
Yes.
Do you employ people to help the establishment with the video system?
No.
You maintain it on your own?
Yes.
At some point, were you visited by somebody from the Massachusetts State Police?
Yes.
Were you asked whether or not they could view some of your video surveillance?
Yes.
Do you remember the date? Not the date they came to visit you, the date that they were looking for.
I believe it was January 28th, 27th, 28th of 2022.
Around that time?
Yes.
Did you allow access to the video system?
Yes.
Did you oversee that access to the video system?
Yes.
Was it a state police officer?
It was two state police detectives.
Do you remember their names?
I remember one of the detectives' names. I do not remember the other detective.
The one you remember, could you share the name?
It was Detective Buchnick, Yuri.
Detective Yuri Buchnick.
Yes.
At some point, was he allowed to download information from the surveillance system?
Yes.
Did you watch him do that?
Yes, I did.
At some point, have you been able to briefly look at some of that download?
Yes.
And does it appear to be a fair and accurate depiction of the surveillance or the area of your bar?
Yes.
Move to introduce.
Okay, there's no objection, Mr. Yannetti.
There is no objection, Your Honor.
Hey, Bob, what do you think about Yannetti's demeanor this morning?
Thank you.
I was just talking about that, man. I think he came in.
I'm telling you, I'm not a fan.
He came in hot, like, and I was just raving about him yesterday. I like even keeled Yannetti. Like,
Yeah.
he's a nice balance because Alan can get fiery. Like, you can't have everybody coming in hot. And these first responders were early in the case.
Yep. Not your punching bag, man.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
I had it on in the background when I was just, checking in my office, talking with people, and I keep hearing his aggression, and it's kind of like, all right, man, that is not working for 9 o'clock in the morning with these important, but they're not just positive witnesses.
right. Exactly.
Like, who gives a crap and people online are just going nuts about some of these. And it's like, man, if you win the 19th most important witness, that's good, but you didn't win the case.
Right. And beyond that, I just don't find that these things that she was puking out during this incredibly traumatic event to be dispositive, nor do I find them to be inculpatory. I was just saying, it's like, if you're in that situation as a human being, you're going to be trying to figure out what the hell happened out loud. You'd be panicked, you'd be frantic, you'd be thinking out loud. Like, there's a reasonable explanation for whatever she may have asked. I think everything's on the table when you find a loved one deceased and you're the one who discovers them and you don't know what happened, to ask every question under the sun out loud to people that made, so yeah, I agree. I think I think they need to temper it.
It's a big problem for me when people in the state or the defense start presupposing how reactions are supposed to occur.
Yeah.
Because if I have this expectation as the examiner that this is what you witnesses, your reaction should have been, and I chase that down and illustrate how your reaction wasn't how I would have reacted, or
right.
Bob or Allie would have. No, they reacted different. Now, that's great. You've shown that person's reaction's different from what you, a 48-year-old fat bald lawyer, it doesn't matter. What is their reaction supposed to be? You hit a juror wrong with that.
Yeah.
It lands terrible. Like,
it does.
It absolutely ruins your credibility as an authority, as what should happen, what reasonable is, when your initial position is that this person acted unreasonably.
I agree. And it's exactly what I was saying. I mean, you just like, and I just think that there's a rational explanation for it that the defense can lean into, which would, because they really did the first trial not dig into these people in terms of like every specific statement that was made, because it kind of gives you that doth the lady protest too much type
It's
vibe.
a declining return on that investment. Like,
Oh.
it's great to point out, hey, this person's reaction deviated from what you might expect, wasn't as intent. There's questions that we'd really like to know more. But if you're going to go attack that stuff and highlight it, you better have it, because otherwise the jury's going to look at you like, why are you picking on? And that's what I really worry with Yannetti when he comes off. That's a big turnoff for jurors. And if I'm Alan Jackson, Karen Reed, you need that counterpoint. Alan Jackson's definitely aggressive, but you got to tell Yannetti to calm it down, because Brennan has done a very good job maintaining steadiness.
Right.
A big part of the appeal of the Commonwealth's case is how consistent and steady and, dare I say, non-emotional he is being with this case. The more they keep it discreet and small, the stronger the Commonwealth's case is. Every time the case just gets that little bit bigger, that's a defense win.
Yeah, and I mean, the litmus test for Brennan's going to be how does he perform on cross? So it'll be interesting to see. All right, so this witness, she's essentially the witness that's establishing the only charge that I think that Karen Reed's probably guilty of, which is DUI.
Yeah.
So let's see what she has to say.
Your Honor, may I play just a small portion?
Sure.
Thank you. Ma'am, I'm going to show you just some random shots from this video, but I want to know if you recognize it. Is this the inside of C.F. McCarthy's?
Yes.
I'm not asking if you have any particular knowledge or information about that night. I just want to know is this a fair and accurate depiction of what C.F. McCarthy's looks like?
Yes.
Has there been any substantive, significant changes to the inside of that establishment
No.
since this video was taken?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Gilman. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Okay.
I have no questions.
Wow.
All right. Thank you.
Short and sweet. Josh, I'm playing trial bingo, and not having much luck, my friend.
Oh no, don't worry. There's a lot going on. I'm going to be jumping in and off this morning. I may hit.
Your next witness, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you, Bridget Meehan.
Going on, but
You
I'll
got
sit
carte
and watch
blanche,
this
baby.
all day.
You pop in, you pop out whenever you want. That's exactly how I want it to be.
I love what this is. And so here's part of the thing. And everybody's like, oh my God, this is the best lawyer and this is the best. Worst. I can't believe they lost the case. Oh, come on, man. That ain't the way court works.
No.
Show me that you really never watched a lot of trials by telling me how much this case is a slam. No case like this is a slam dunk.
No.
No way. Slam dunks, they disappear in court because, trust me, the system is set. I was explaining this morning to our pair of manager assistant
May I
who's going to
proceed?
law
Yes.
school, where
Good morning.
literally the system is set up to disincentivize trial. And
100%.
people need to understand that. Trial, that's the last thing you want. You mean you're going to trust this project that many people with lots of education have spent enormous money, assets, integrity, intent on? Guys, we sit around, we fight about this stuff. And when we can't come together and find a solution that we're willing to trust 12 people from the community, like that's risk assessment.
Huge.
And
People
folks
don't understand that,
don't
man.
get that. Like,
They don't get it.
Karen Reed is shaking in her boots every minute she is in trial. So is Hank Brennan, Alan Jackson, and every good lawyer in the world. Any lawyer where it's like, man, I just own this joint. I promise you, they are shaking like a leaf inside.
100%.
I've hung out with and been blessed to literally be personally trained and break bread with people that won billions of dollars. death penalty acquittals, Guantanamo Bay. I've trained with the best of the best. They all are terrified because you better be terrified with what you're doing. When you get to the part of your life where, man, I can just phone in the rest of that person's life.
Can't do it.
That's and the problem is, as lawyers, we see that sometimes, and it's like, oh man, danger, kryptonite right there. That lawyer is not caring enough because this is a life. But that's the system as well. System disincentivizes people going to trial, sometimes by building barriers between lawyers and ethics and morality. The only way prosecutors can do their job is because they're separate from the consequences that they enact on people. If you sent anybody that can put someone in jail should have to do 48 hours a year in jail. You're going to use that as your tool at work. You should have the tool used on you.
100%. Could not agree more. All facts. All right, let's see who this witness is.
Introduce yourself to the jury, please.
My name is Bridget Meehan.
Where do you work?
I work at the Waterfall Bar and Grill in Canton.
The name maybe tells us a little bit about it, but could you just share a couple lines of what the Waterfall Bar and Grill is?
It's a small family-owned business in Canton. It's in a mixed condo complex.
Are you involved in the ownership of it?
Yes.
How long have you been involved with the Waterfall Bar and Grill?
We've been there approximately 10 years.
Do you help run the establishment?
Yes, I do.
And you were running the establishment back on January 28, 2022? Yes. At some point, were you asked or visited to see if your establishment had video surveillance of the inside?
I was.
Does your establishment have video surveillance of the inside?
It does.
Do you have a camera and a server?
Do I have? Yes, I do.
Did you provide video surveillance to the Massachusetts State Police from that night, January 28, 2022?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'd like to move this in as an exhibit, please.
Okay. Ms. Giannetti?
No objection.
With the court's permission?
Yes.
Thank you. Ma'am, I'm going to show you just a brief clip. Okay, stop, please. Do you see that video?
I do.
Does that depict the inside of McCarthy's?
No.
I'm sorry, the waterfall?
Yes.
I'm trying to switch establishments on you. Back on January 28, 2022, does that look the way it looked then?
Yes.
Has there been any significant changes inside since then?
No.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay.
No questions.
All right, Ms. Meehan.
Thank you.
So just so y'all know, last two witnesses have been foundational witnesses just to get videos in.
All right, your next witness, Mr. Brennan.
Commonwealth calls Mike Camerano.
You solemnly swear the evidence given to the court and jury in the case now returns from the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Good morning.
May I?
Please.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Hi, good morning. My name is Michael Camerano.
Mr. Camerano, can I ask how old you are? I'm sorry.
Spell your last name.
Camerano.
And so if you could either move the microphone down a little bit or speak up, or maybe a combination of both, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask you how old you are?
48,
Where do you live?
Canton, Mass.
How long have you lived in Canton for?
Me and my wife have lived there for 20 years. Me and my wife have lived there for 20 years. We have 2 children.
How old are your children, sir?
My daughter is 17. My son is 14.
Did you know John O'Keefe?
Yes.
How did you know him?
I met John for the first time at his sister's, they had a benefit for his sister in 2000, I think 13. I met John there for the first time. Then years later, our kids got involved with sports together and they became very close. As they became close, I became very close with John and his family.
Was your daughter close with John's niece?
Yes.
Was your son close with?
Yes.
Did you spend a lot of time together through sports and socially?
Yes, we did.
I want to take you forward to January 28th of 2022.
Okay.
Do you remember that day?
Yes.
Had you, without any discussion of what might have been said, did you have any discussions with John that day?
Yes.
Did you have a plan?
Yes, we were communicating.
At some point, did you decide that you were going to spend some time or go meet John?
Yes. That Friday, my daughter and his daughter, they got acceptance letters to school. So we wanted to get them together so they could enjoy the time together. And, just, go over like how it'll be so much fun, something new, different. Yeah, so we were going to meet up after I got out of work.
Was your daughter planning to go to a new school?
Yes.
Where?
Bishop Fan.
And how about his niece?
Same.
They both got accepted to
They
the
both
same
got
school?
accepted to the same school.
Was it a celebratory mood?
Yes.
Did you have a plan to bring the children together so they could celebrate?
Yes, we did.
And then separately, you were going to meet John and celebrate?
Correct.
Where did you drop your daughter off?
I dropped my daughter off at John. I went into John's. I was at the house with John and the girls, and we had a little celebration. Talked about how nice it's going to be, fun, change, different, meet new people.
And you celebrated at John's house before you went out?
Correct.
After the celebration with your children, did you and John leave?
Yes.
During that celebration, was there anybody there other than you, John, and your two daughters?
No. No. Karen was not there.
Was there anybody else there?
No, just the two girls, myself and John.
What was the weather like that night?
It was cold. It was not snowing yet.
Was there an expectation? for
Yes,
the
there was an
next morning?
expectation. Yes,
What was that?
that there was going to be a big snowstorm coming in.
A storm was coming.
Yes.
When you left, did you leave in a separate car than John, or did you leave together?
No, we left together. John got in my car and we were leaving. We're going to leave.
Where were the girls?
The girls are in the house, stayed in the house.
They were staying at John's house?
Yes, correct.
Where did you go?
We went to C.F. McCarthy's.
When you got there, did you know anybody who was there other than you and John?
At that time, no.
Did you spend time at C.F. McCarthy's?
Yes.
Were you drinking?
Yes.
Was John drinking?
Yes.
Alcohol?
Yes.
How long were you there for?
A couple hours.
While you were there, did anybody come and meet you that you knew?
Yes.
Who?
A friend. And then Karen came in.
The friend?
Yes.
What was the friend's name?
Kurt.
And then how long after you first got there was it that the defendant arrived?
I would like to say within an hour or so. Not 100% sure.
You said back home it was a celebratory mood. Was it still a celebratory mood at McCarthy's?
Yes.
Marissa, it is those
When
little things
when
that
the
you
defendant
just
arrived,
stop
did you
you
spend time with
mid-sentence.
you and John?
I've talked briefly to her, and her and John were mostly talking.
You didn't see any issues.
No.
It was a normal night,
Seemed to be, yes.
as far as you could see.
Yes.
And you saw John drinking.
Yes.
Did you see the defendant drinking?
I saw her with a glass, yes.
Did you leave at the same time that John left?
No, I did not.
When you left, was John still at the establishment?
Yes.
When you left, was the defendant still with him?
Yes.
Why did you leave?
I left because I got a phone call. My son was playing hockey in the backyard, and he got hit with a stick and lost his tooth.
Oh. Where did you go?
I went to my son's friend's house.
Do you know about what time that was when you went to see your son?
I would like to say 9:30, in between 9:30 and 10.
You didn't go back to McCarthy's that night, did you?
No, I did not.
After you helped your son, where did you go next?
I went to pick up my daughter, Madeline,
Did you go?
at John's house.
Did you go in John's house?
No, I did not.
When you got to John's house, did your daughter come out?
No. We went to the side door
Okay.
and rang the doorbell.
And then what happened?
And then my daughter came to the door.
Where'd you go?
From there, we left and went home.
When you went home, had the weather changed at all?
It was cool. It might have been flurrying at that time.
No accumulation?
No.
You got home?
Yes.
Did you do anything significant when you got home?
Put the kids to bed, my son, and no, I went to bed.
What's the next thing you remember happening?
Waking up to, I missed some phone calls
Who were the missed phone calls from?
my wife and Karen.
What did you do?
I called my wife.
After speaking to your wife, what did you do?
I got in my car and drove to John's house.
About what time was this?
In between maybe 5 and 6 a.m.
What was your mood at that point?
I was panicked
Why did you go to John's house?
because I went to get Kaylee.
Did you know if she was alone?
Yes,
How long did it take you to get to John's house?
maybe 5-7 minutes.
When you get to John's house, what do you see?
I pull in the driveway. I see that the garage door is open. I go in through the garage door. I don't know if Kaylee was standing there, if the door, she came out the door, and I asked her, if she needed anything, she could get in my car and stay warm.
When you first saw Kaylee, what did she look like?
She looked distraught.
Did you try to help her?
Well, I think I just said everything will be okay. Yeah.
Did she come with you?
Yes.
Where are you going?
To my house.
So what happens?
So we go to my house, and my daughter's up, and the two girls they were hanging downstairs, just hanging out, just being kids. And then, I don't know, a couple hours later, maybe, Paul called me and asked me to bring Kaylee home.
Did you know anything at that point?
I did, yes.
You did or didn't?
At that point, I did when Paul had told me.
So what do you do?
Asked Madeline and Kaylee if I'd say, Madeline, will you come for the ride? I don't say anything to Kaylee, and we get in the car, and I start heading back to John's house.
And you didn't say anything to Kaylee?
No, I didn't. I just said everything will be all right. She had a feeling.
Why do you say that?
She didn't want to go home.
So what happens next?
So I pull in the driveway, and I remember Paul and Papa standing. I think they were standing at the side door, and we just embraced.
Did you stay?
No, not long. No,
Did you go back?
I was to the house. I went back to my house.
Did you go back to John's house?
I did the next day. Yes, I was there.
When you went back, were there people there?
Yes,
Many?
there was people coming and going.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
You crossed him at all very gently.
Very. It's just not worth the squeeze on these. Like, and reverse roles with the juror.
Good morning,
get
Mr.
bored.
Cameron.
Good
You
morning.
know what's good and what's not. You know what you're looking at.
This is quite painful for you to remember the events of January 28th, is it not?
Yes,
You were very close with your friend John O'Keefe, correct?
I was close with them. Yes,
And you actually met Karen Reed through John, correct?
correct.
After meeting Karen, you spent a good amount of time with both Karen and John, correct?
Correct.
As of January 28th of 2022, you had known Karen for maybe about a year or so,
Sounds correct.
and you'd see them especially on Fridays, correct?
Correct.
That would be sort of the day that you get together with both of them often.
Yes,
And of course, your children spent a lot of time with John and Karen, right?
correct.
You entrusted both Karen and John with your kids.
Yes,
Sometimes your kids would even go on vacation with Karen and John, right?
they did go to the Cape. Yes,
Sometimes you'd see Karen without John at your house or on a ball field. And your daughter in particular would sometimes spend time with just Karen without John, correct?
correct.
Your daughter would sometimes go over to Karen's house in Mansfield when she lived there, correct?
Correct.
And obviously, when your daughter would go to Karen's house in Mansfield, Karen would be the one in charge of caring for her, correct?
Correct.
And you were fine with that because you liked and you trusted Karen, right?
Correct.
And in your view, Karen was very good with kids, right?
Correct.
But you also had the opportunity to see Karen and John together, right?
Yes,
You saw how they interacted with each other over that year period that you knew Karen.
yes,
You saw how they got along.
yes,
And you never observed any arguments or bickering, correct?
I mean, they argued and bickered.
You had previously testified that you wouldn't even call it arguing, you just call it banter, right?
Yes, I mean, he would, I mean, no, he would get upset or like over if she bought expensive things for the kids.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
we will get to that. That would be the one thing that John would complain about, Karen buying like very nice things for his niece and nephew, right?
Correct.
Or he'd complain if, Karen was taking his niece and other girls to get their nails done, like extravagances like that.
Correct.
And one specific memory you have is when Karen bought his niece a very expensive sweater, right?
Correct.
And you recall John telling you that he wished that she hadn't done that because he considered that to be spoiling the girl, correct?
Yes,
But it was very clear to you from your observations that Karen really, really liked John. I'm sorry, John really, really liked Karen, right?
Sustained.
He certainly never told you or even suggested he was thinking about or planning to break up with Karen, right?
no,
Okay, so with regard to that Friday night, January 28th, sir, the plan was for you and John to go to McCarthy's to have some drinks because there was a storm coming in, correct? And because of the celebration of the girls getting into Bishop Fen?
well, yeah, we were going out. It wasn't a continuation of the celebration of the girls. We were going out to have a few beers as guys.
Okay. And when you were leaving the house, John asked you to move your car, right?
Correct.
Where was your car when John asked you to move it that night?
I backed up my car. We were leaving the driveway, and John asked me to stop so he could move his car.
I see. And he wanted you to move your car because of the storm coming in, and you wanted Karen to be able to pull her car into the garage, right?
Correct.
And that was really thoughtful of him, wasn't it?
Yes, extremely.
And it showed you that he was being chivalrous toward Karen that night, right?
Yes.
He didn't want Karen to be out in the heavy snow later when she returned to his house during the expected blizzard, right?
Sustained.
You took from that there was an expectation that Karen would be coming back to his house, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
You had no inkling that day that anything was wrong between Karen and John, correct?
No.
Everything seemed fine between the two of them, right?
Yes, he did mention though that night that he didn't understand why Karen had a plumber go to the house.
Because he had somebody that could have done that work instead of paying for the plumber, right?
Well, yes.
Okay.
And
But in any case, the plan was for Karen to meet up with the two of you, right?
yes,
And she did show up to McCarthy's at about 8:30 p.m. or so.
yes, I guess if that's the time.
And you saw an affection.
I'm sorry, what was the answer that you
If
said?
that was the time, I'm not sure about the timeline.
Okay. It was sometime after you'd
Yes.
gotten there. Right.
Correct.
But you do remember when Karen arrived, there was an affectionate greeting between John and Karen, right?
Yes.
You saw them kiss, right?
Yes.
You saw John put his arm around Karen,
Correct.
and you saw that Karen sort of nestled into his embrace.
Correct.
And when she did that, that's when he kissed her, correct?
Yes,
And they seemed happy to see each other, did they not?
they did.
That night they were affectionate,
Yes.
laughing,
Yes.
happy,
Yes.
like a normal couple.
Yes.
No arguments.
No.
You witnessed no bickering, no tension, correct?
No.
And during the month before John's passing, that January of 2022, you observed their relationship in your presence to be normal, caring, and affectionate, right?
Yes.
Thank you very much, sir.
You were asked a number of questions about the relationship between John and Karen that night. Do you know what was going on behind closed doors other than what you saw?
I'll allow it.
No.
Do you know whether or not they texted each other that day?
No, that day, no.
Do you know whether or not there was any arguments that day?
I'll allow it.
Not to my, no, I don't know if they were, I don't know if they were arguing over the plumber situation. I
Do you
don't
know
know.
if there's any vulgarities that day?
No,
Do you know if there's any vulgarities that night?
no, not to my knowledge.
Do you know whether or not John was trying to end the relationship with Miss Reed?
Do you know that, sir?
No,
Next question.
Do you know if there was any jealousy in that relationship?
I'll allow it.
I mean, Karen wouldn't they did everything together, a lot of things together. And I thought at times, yeah, you could see, she didn't want other women around John. I don't know, not at that, but
Thank you.
You follow it? All right, Mr. Cameron, you're all set, sir. I'll see counsel at sidebar for just a minute, please.
So yeah, that guy, nice guy, likable guy, credible guy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just I thought he had
out
probably
there.
defense more.
Yeah.
but he didn't move the needle much. You know, I think it's gonna really kind of play into how the Commonwealth's gonna try this case, right? I mean, we know that they're not bringing in like the Sullivan sisters, the whole Aruber thing, like so they're not leaning into that concept that this was intentional, that
No.
like Karen had designs on killing him intentionally, so they've abandoned that at least.
It's making that case smaller and smaller.
Yep.
And making it really easy for a jury to say, hold on, what is all this other stuff? This case, if I'm Hank Brennan, is there's a romantic couple. They had a dispute. They dropped him off at a house party. She was pissed off and drunk, backed right up into him, drove off. She then realized how awful this was. So she did everything and continues to do everything to try to show she's not responsible. And I don't blame anybody for that. But ladies and gentlemen, let's just talk about the facts of what's beyond a reasonable doubt, likely and reasonable, versus a potentially possible, completely made up excuse. And if I'm Hank Brennan, I'm literally calling out the defense and saying, this is a made up, this is a lie. Like, I think that the state really needs to take an aggressive tact on the alibi, however you want to call it, the fight theory, the third party issue, and really nail that on the head and say, this is an easy, straightforward case. Don't get lost in defense magic, the smoke, the mirrors of those all powerful defense lawyers who can trick you.
Yeah, and the defense is setting themselves up for it. I mean, I've been yelling on this channel for 2 years. You've got the ARCA guys. That's what you lean into. I mean, you just like they're creating that opportunity for the Commonwealth to do exactly what you just said by putting on the conspiracy case. And I get it. There are many people that believe that something went down in that
absolutely
house.
And I'm not saying it's not possible,
right?
But listen, beyond a reasonable doubt, we love making it. It's not scientific, but it's the elimination of all. Man, there's more wiggle room in there than a lot of people that trend defense like me want to admit. It's the elimination of anything reasonable. If you're going to say it didn't happen because of something unreasonable that happened, the jury can still say, okay, you're saying something completely unreasonable happened. It was still proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Your excuse, your justification, your defense is unreasonable. If you talk to people and say, hey, is it unreasonable to believe that spontaneously a family of police and politicians ended up with their potential romantic interconnected family friend who'd never been there before but was also a cop, and that happened to be an opportunity to beat him within an inch of his life, have a dog attack him, and dump.
Please.
I'm going to call
Reasonable.
recall.
That's not the super reasonable story that a lot of people would watch. So
it's a tough sell, man.
It is. And that's why this isn't a slam dunk. And no one thing is going to move this case unless it really is something outrageous.
Right.
Brennan didn't even put on the power tie. He's got the gold and slanted stripe. Very curated.
Yep.
Because they're watching everything the defense wears every single day, and there will be some comment about slick suits.
Yep.
Parliament, please.
Guarino's back.
Uh-huh.
Sure, you can have a seat. I'll remind you you're still in your.
Or stand, however you're most comfortable today. Just do whatever you need to do, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, everyone.
Sir, yesterday we talked about downloading phones and making what you called extractions.
Yes.
And from that data, you could create different types of reports.
So have Detective Guarino say his name again, please.
I'm sorry. Again, for the record, could you introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name for the record?
Yeah. Good morning. My name is Nicholas Guarino, Guarino.
Thank you.
Sir, you mentioned yesterday that you downloaded a number of phones, or you were involved in the process of downloading a number of phones.
That's correct.
You explained to us that after you have the data analyzed, you can pinpoint certain items that you may want to put in a document.
Yes. So with all the extractions into a program of our choosing, Cellbrite is the most commonly used, and then we can take call logs or text messages, any information that the investigator is looking for.
When you downloaded Mr. O'Keefe's phone and you downloaded the defendant's phone, did you try to create, or did you create a report through Cellbrite, the software, that would show you all of Mr. O'Keefe's call logs?
Yes, I did.
And when I use the term call logs, what does that mean?
The call logs are the calls that the phone receives.
How do you create a report from Cellbrite? Can you just walk us through that process briefly?
Yep. So in the program, you can go in and select the calls from it and export it into different formats: PDF, XML, HTML, or you can create a portable case and extract them all as a portable case that we would see on my computer.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you a document of Mr. O'Keefe's call logs. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what is it?
It is the call logs. Just want to make sure it's between John O'Keefe and the defendant from, just want to see the dates, the 28th, January 28th, 2022 to January 29th, 2022.
Would this contain all the phone calls from his phone data, the calls between those two parties that night?
Yes, that's what I created.
Thank you. I'd like to move this as an exhibit, please.
So,
If I could, Your Honor, just want to compare to make sure we got the same.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Consent.
okay.
No objection.
You captured all of the phone calls between two parties on that last document. Can you also do that with chats?
Yes, that is true.
And did you do that in this case?
Yes, I did.
Did you create a document of chats between the phones of the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe for after midnight, for the evening hours of January 29, 2002?
Yes, I did.
May I approach?
Yes.
You recognize that document, sir?
Yes, I do.
And can you tell us what that is?
These are the texts from the defendant to John O'Keefe. Yes.
for January 29, 2022?
Yes, that's correct. I'm sorry.
I move this as an exhibit, Your Honor.
Okay.
No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Exhibit 24.
Did you identify or specify chat messages between John O'Keefe and a person named Jen McCabe?
Yes, I did.
Did you create a Cellbrite report?
Yes, I did.
May I approach?
Yes.
Can we have just a brief moment, please?
The sidebar?
No.
Just the two of
them? Compare the what we have.
Yes, go ahead.
Gonna get our first Alessi cross here.
I was gonna say, this is gonna get,
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
Technical.
Sir, I'm handing you a document. Do you recognize it?
Yes. This is the text messages between John O'Keefe and Jen McCabe on 29th on January 29th, 2022.
And this is through a search of Cellbrite. You match their data, all of their conversations.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Okay. I move to introduce this, please, Your Honor.
No objection, Your Honor.
25.
Similarly to the chats, did you do the same with calls between Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. McCabe?
Yes, I did.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you a document, sir. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, this is the call log between John O'Keefe and Jen McCabe for, just want to make sure I get all the dates correct, just for January 29th, 2022.
To evidence, Your Honor.
Okay.
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 26.
Did you do a file extraction and a report on all chats between the phones of John O'Keefe and the defendant for a period of time?
Yes, I did.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Handing you a document. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, this is the text messages between John O'Keefe and the defendant from January 28th to January 29th, 2022.
Your Honor, move this into evidence.
Okay. Mr. Alessi?
No objection, Your
All
Honor.
right.
Exhibit 27.
Did you have an opportunity to make a report from some of the data from the defendant's phone from January 29, 2022?
what are you referring? I did make some reports from the defendant's phone.
What's a call log report?
Again, the call log report is the calls that the party makes to another phone. So it's going to show everyone they've called or attempted to call.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you to take a look at this document. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
And could you tell the jury what it is?
It's the call log from the defendant's phone for January 29th, 2022. It looks like everyone she called.
Introduce this as an exhibit, please.
No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Exhibit 28.
What we just introduced into evidence is the entire call log of calls to anybody and everybody to and from for that period of time.
Yes.
That's fair to say?
Yes, that's correct.
And then can you further isolate calls between just two parties?
Yes, you can. You can search by phone number or name.
And did you do that with the defendant's records for some parties?
Yes, I did.
Did you isolate phone calls between the defendant and Ms. McCabe for the evening of January 29, 2022?
Yes, I did.
May I approach?
Yes.
As you take a look at this document, do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
It's the phone calls from the defendant and Jennifer McCabe, January 29th, 2022.
Thank you. Your Honor, I'd like to move this into evidence, please.
No objection, Your Honor.
Right, thank you.
Exhibit 29.
Did you isolate calls between the defendant and Ms. Roberts for the night of January 29, 22?
Yes, I did.
Can I see the last exhibit, please? Thank you, sir. I asked you to take a look at that document. Do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
Could you share with the jury what it is?
Yep. It's the call logs between the defendant and Carrie Roberts for January 29th, 2022. Yes.
That's a report you created.
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I can listen to evidence, please.
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
Exhibit 30.
Did you have an opportunity to isolate and produce a report for all chats between the defendant and Ms. Roberts for the night of January 29, 2022?
Yes, I did.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
So I'm handing you a document. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And could you share with the jury what that is?
This is text messages between the defendant and Carrie Roberts on January 29th, 2022.
I would move this to evidence, please.
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay. Jurors, this is the way we have to put evidence in cases in Massachusetts, okay?
Exhibit 31.
So do you have an opportunity to identify a text message or a chat between the defendant and a person by the name of Ingrid on the morning of January 29th, 2022?
Yes, I did.
May I approach?
Yes.
Take a look at this document. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
Could you tell the jury what that is?
Yes, this is a text conversation between the defendant and looks like a group chat between Ingrid Curtis and Bill Curtis.
Did you make that report?
Yes, this is on January 29, 2022.
Thank you. And we'll get some evidence, please.
No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you.
And I'm Bill Curtis.
32.
All right, I'm not going anywhere, but I got to turn off camera and do something for about 10 minits involving a phone call and one of these.
If this is a good time, Your Honor, would
You guys have the F1 visa issue up there? You got any kids with that? They took away these students' F1 visa to be grad students at a big university, and they just go, "Hey, go back to your country."
I mean, I haven't been hearing about it in Illinois.
That F1 visa issue is crazy. All right, I'm not going anywhere. I'm still here. I'm just turning off the camera and muting, but I'm listening the whole time.
You do you. All right, so we've got some blooping. Let's see what we got. I think they took the morning break. See, people complaining about commentary obviously don't understand the concept of blooping. Plus, we're never not going to comment. It's the entire point of this channel. It's crazy. It's crazy. All right, let's see what we got. I will sadly be using up. All right, so I used up all the blooping. So, yeah, in terms of foundational witnesses authenticating, that's what we're seeing here. I'm assuming that Hank will get into content of those texts, so it should get interesting after he gets all the stuff in. He's doing the heavy lifting up front in terms of the boring stuff, laying the foundation, because you have to lay foundation, you have to authenticate evidence like this in order to get it entered into evidence, and that's what he's doing. So as opposed to doing it piecemeal, he's doing it all on the front end, which frankly I appreciate. I think it's the preferable way to do it. I've seen it done piecemeal. Can really disrupt the flow. So I think I mean, for a lifelong defense guy, Brennan is playing the role of prosecutor very well. Like he would have a very different demeanor if he were defending the case. Just would. It's like what Josh was saying about the tie. Toned it down, way down. It's interesting. It's very, very interesting. Yeah, don't worry, Brooklyn. The commentary's not going anywhere. I'll pause it. We're not going to miss 1 minute of the trial. The one thing that I try not to do is have us talking over testimony. So my preference would be to pause it in order for us to kind of spit some knowledge to y'all. I mean, I think that's the point of the channels, of LawTube channels, right? I mean, otherwise just watch it on Law and Crime. Deal with that chat. Have fun with that. It's rough. It's rough over there. It's rough. It's like a microcosm. It's kind of like Twitter. A little bit in there. You get all kinds. Get all kinds in there. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty excited to have Alessi handle his first witness. And I'm going to be very interested to see Alessi's demeanor. And somebody on Twitter made an excellent point. He happens to be a Boston lawyer, and I really liked what he had to say. It was a good counterpoint to what Josh and I were saying. Let me find it because it's good. Let me see here. Yeah, it's Richard Vetstein. We follow each other. He's a Boston guy, Boston lawyer. He's like, this is Massachusetts. We offend people for a living and for sport. None of these jurors will be offended. To the contrary, they want to see fireworks. So it's a valid point. It's a valid point. You know, you do have to regionally think about what the norm is. And, you know, I lived in Philly. I practiced in Philly for 5 years, and it's vastly different than Chicago. Just is. Right. That was the next thing he said, Marissa. He said, I think that's why they call us massholes. So, you know, so it's a valid take. It's a valid take. And yeah, exactly. Cash Money. Unetti is a local. He would know. He would know. I mean, like for me, because like you're always worried about the jurors, right? You know, but if that's the norm and they're not going to take offense, yeah, Philly's wild, Charlene. It's pretty cutthroat. Pretty cutthroat. I was not accustomed to it when I first got there. So I was a little taken aback initially. I got accustomed to it, but it was took some getting used to in terms of like I'm talking about the practice of law out there, kind of how they deal with you. I mean, I think it is a general proposition. Midwestern folks are just nice. We try to be nice. Um, yeah, right. Exactly. We are Midwestern. Yeah, I try to be I try to be a nice guy. You know, it's how we are in the Midwest. It's not to say there aren't giant assholes, because of course there are. Assholes are everywhere, you know, but from the perspective of kind of like a broad overview, Midwesterners are typically pretty nice. Is Gannicus watching? Is he tuning into the trial, Megan? He's got to be bored out of his mind. He's got to be bored out of his mind. I was really trying to get Cameron, our soon to be 19-year-old, to really watch the whole trial with us. I thought she'd like really find it interesting. I just have this sneaking suspicion that she's going to end up in law school. I don't know. As much as Allison and I tried to dissuade her. That's like Josh is still in it. Josh loves it. I think I don't know. I don't know what it was with me. I think I was taking things too much to heart, but it's that thing that Josh was talking about so aptly, which was really interesting. You know, like what Josh was saying was so true, that, you know, the system is set up to avoid trial by all costs. I mean, that's why a vast majority of cases plead out. I tell you that all the time. I'm like, when we're watching trials, it is not the norm, it's the exception. And I am just, you know, adamant about the fact that that is purposeful. You know, we spend a year, 2 years pre-trial trying to do exactly what Josh was talking about, which is to try to work the damn thing out. Like, we as the defense attorneys know what the evidence is. We know, we can evaluate. It's what our job is, whether or not the state has a very strong case, you know, and we're going to our clients with it. And we're saying, got a strong case. So, you know, your job shifts at that point, and you're trying to work out a deal that is fair. You know, you want the punishment to fit the crime. And that is a massive undertaking. You know, you deal with a lot of young prosecutors that just don't have life experience, that just don't have kind of that world view yet, because that only comes with experience. And it's frustrating trying to deal with younger prosecutors who don't have that life experience, because they just look at things differently. You know, it's like defense attorneys like we live in the grays. And a lot of times I get the sense that younger prosecutors especially younger prosecutors, live in the black and the whites. And it's not a good fit for the law, because every single one of us is different. Every single one of us has had different life experiences. And, you know, when you're as a defense attorney, one of our major roles in terms of handling a case, and it's one of the advantages to private counsel. Like we just have a lot more time at our disposal to be able to dig into the cases, to be able to dig into who our clients are in terms of going in and trying to educate a prosecutor if they're willing to listen, um, as to who our client is and why things may have happened. Because you're going to get cases where it's obvious that your client did it. So, you're not trying to bring that to trial. you know, no defense attorney wants to go in and get their ass handed to them. That's, that concept that we're in there trying to, get guilty people off. That's just, it's just not accurate. I mean, if we win a suppression motion or a motion to quash, you don't point your finger at the defense attorney for filing the motions, because you should be thanking us, because that is for all of us. I talk about that all the time. You all know, constitutionally speaking, we are the last line of defense against the government. Defense attorneys, we protect our rights. Sure the hell isn't the prosecution or the cops. They are the government. So, if we get a motion filed to suppress evidence and it turns out to be smoking gun evidence in the case, and the case is dismissed with prejudice, and that guy walks even though they committed the crime, you should be pissed at the cops, not the lawyer, for doing the job. That's facts. That's how this thing works. It's how it's the best way to keep cops honest. Could you imagine? Could you imagine if there was nothing in place for us as citizens to say, hey, this cop violated this person's constitutional rights, and we had no way to rebut it? Could you imagine that? Like, no one wants to live in that world. No one wants to live in that world. You'd find out very quickly that you don't want to live in that world. It's easy when you're sitting here watching things on TV and, not really thinking about it in real life and in, everyday life. But when it comes home to roost in your life, you then, of course, have a greater appreciation for things. And that's true for not just the law, but for anything. So, yeah. Let's see if I got some, I want to handle some stuff here. Oh, Amy K, OG, an OG, 17 months. Thank you so much. Attorney Chef. Hello from Alabama. Fangirl. You got one in here, Josh. Thank you so much for being a member for all that time. It's awesome. Kara Oldman. Bob, why do you think the defense team participated in the docuseries? I saw that earlier, Kara. It's an interesting question. And I think the easiest answer is that I think that when a majority of the video was filmed, that it was just prior to and during the first trial. So definitely the Max stuff. Like that was all filmed. You can tell just because they were in the SUV with them, they were in the war room with them. And you take that calculated risk if you decide to do a documentary or a Dateline, that if the thing goes to a mistrial, you are not going to be able to hold them off from airing it. Because I'm sure if you were to ask Alan Jackson and David Yannetti how happy they were about that Max doc coming out right before the second trial, they would tell you that they were not happy at all. But I guess the question becomes, should they have anticipated maybe a little bit more the possibility in this case in particular for a mistrial. Maybe, maybe. I mean, when I did the documentary or, the Dateline thing for the Garcia case, I negotiated that thing with them. I gave them more room access, but I had it written in the contract. I'm like, this cannot air until after trial. And they agreed to that. And that was the first, our episode was the first ever 2-hour episode of Dateline. And they stretched it out really because we had given them the war room access, and it's like you go into those types of situations as an attorney knowing which way Dateline's going to swing on it, depending on the verdict. If the state gets its conviction, they're going to make us look like assholes. That going in. So, but for me, the concept was like the early days concept of this channel, in that I really wanted to give people a better understanding out in the world of what it is that defense attorneys really do, as opposed to what you think we do, because they're two very different things. And I think I've made a lot of headway on this channel over the last 2 years in educating people why we matter so much and how important we are, not just to the criminal justice system, but to the operation of society at large. I mean, when I'm telling you that we're the last line of defense against the government in protecting our constitutional rights, I'm not mincing words at all. So yeah, young prosecutors are frustrating, and it's that kind of profession where certainly there are plenty of prosecutors that are longtime prosecutors that are in there, they're on the track, like, and when Josh comes back, I'll ask him how it is down in Georgia, but in Illinois, the most common route to the bench, to getting on the bench, is the prosecutor track as opposed to the defense attorney track. It's not to say that there's not defense attorneys that don't make it to the bench, because there are, but it's far more common to see former prosecutors on the bench in Illinois than it is defense attorneys. And oddly enough, you go in when you, like, especially in counties that you practice in all the time, and you're aware of, obviously, openings on the bench. You're aware of when certain judges retire. You're either happy or you're sad about it. And then, when that new judge either gets appointed initially, if it's in between an election cycle and they have to get a judge in there, they'll appoint them. But here in Illinois, they are ultimately having to be elected or reelected if they're appointed, which I appreciate. There has to be a way, in my estimation, to get judges off the bench if they're not good up there, because as you can see from cases that we've watched together and that we've covered, there are some judges that are not great, and they wield an awful lot of power up there. So you want capable, smart, compassionate judges that, most importantly, know the law. And it's helpful. Like, one of the frustrating things, like, out by us in a lot of our counties, is that they will stick judges on the bench in courtrooms in which they are presiding over cases in which they never handled those types of cases as attorneys. And it can be frustrating as a lawyer. If you've got a judge who was a civil litigator, I don't feel too uncomfortable with having them on the bench in terms of criminal court, because they understand the rules of evidence, and they understand, which is an absolutely critical skill set for them to have, to be in a criminal courtroom, because they're the gatekeepers of the evidence. You can't have judges in there that don't understand the rules of evidence. And if you get somebody who's worked in contracts their entire career and never stepped foot in a courtroom, they're just not going to have that experience. So that's not a good fit. So, there's a lot of dynamics to it, but it's interesting. There's so many things at play in the criminal justice system. And the most important aspect of it is that we're all human beings and we're all different. It's like I talk about all the time. When you're thinking about the law, the entire point of our profession is perception and interpretation. You have two different people that are interpreting either evidence differently, facts differently, statutes differently, and we're litigating it. We're arguing about it. It's really fascinating. That's why I was talking about it the other day on a live. I was like, look, it, every case is interesting. It doesn't matter how big the case is. I mean, because when you look at the Karen Reed case, this isn't an uncommon type of case. It's not an uncommon type of case where you have alcohol, a vehicle, and a pedestrian involved. It's very common case. So for this thing to take on the life that it has, one of the reasons that I love this case is that because she had the money to be able to fight it. And it's a beautiful example of just exactly the type of resources that you need to have to be able to put up this type of fight against the government. And the fact is the vast majority of our country does not have that type of money, which is why you see what you see in our criminal justice system. You see people of color that are disproportionately filling up the prisons. I mean, you see, you can almost be guaranteed with exoneration cases, if you're to go back and look at the trial attorneys involved, that typically, not always, but typically, defense counsel underperformed or was flat out incompetent, in those cases. And, the sad reality in our world is you get what you pay for. It's just the truth. And that goes for lawyers as well. And, my father was a public defender for 15 years. Brilliant lawyer. Brilliant lawyer. You'd be lucky to have him. At the same time, he also had very limited time to spend on his cases because of his caseload. Therein lies the rub with PDs. The conception that it's actually a misconception that public defenders are not good lawyers. It's just not accurate. I mean, the problem for those attorneys, and there's bad lawyers everywhere. I mean, that's always the case. But in terms of the concept that a PD is not a good lawyer is ridiculous. Their problem is time. It's always time. Like when you're paying for private counsel, what you're buying is that lawyer's time. Because time is everything in prepping for a case. I mean, what you're seeing in this trial, much more so, and we're only 3 days in, than the first trial, is preparation. And Lally had a hell of a lot longer to prep for the case than Brennan did. But, the thing that, hold on, Polly, I'll start your thing. I'll get to it. The thing with Karen Reed's team is they have shut down every other aspect of their practices. Now, obviously, Alan has a lot of attorneys in his office. He's got other attorneys. So the practice is still afloat. But you take that hit financially. They're not taking on new cases while this thing was pending because they can't. Not really. Obviously, cases that they had that were in litigation time that this started, they got to see that through. They have other lawyers covering for them. But, when it gets to the point where you've got another trial for another client that's butting up against this, you're having to go to that court and that judge and say, Your Honor, I know this case is 2.5 years old, but, I'm in this Reed thing. And there's nothing I could do about it. This judge she's unmovable in terms of moving this trial, and for the purposes of Karen Reed, she wants to get this thing over with. Karen Reed didn't want to stretch this out anymore. But God, Josh was just echoing what I say on here all the time. If you think that any of these lawyers are not incredibly racked with nerves, you just don't understand what we do for a living. We deal with the highest stakes there are: people's liberty, people's lives. It's as high as it gets as far as stakes go. If you've got a lawyer that's in there that doesn't care, you need to run away from that lawyer as quickly as possible. It's not who you want as your lawyer. It's like and it's funny, when I would do a closing argument, I didn't feel nerves at that point, in that moment in time, like, oh, I'm nervous because I'm talking to the jury. I always felt the overall
Right.
weight of the
Did you see the court is in session?
Could I see counsel for a minute regarding scheduling, please?
Oh, she was just kidding. All right, let me see. I saw Polly had asked a question. Polygraph, Bobby, you don't agree with arguing the conspiracy. So in this case, would she not have been better with a public defender that just picked holes in the evidence bench trial? No way, Polly, because of that time aspect. Like, that's the problem with public defenders. They have huge caseloads. They're overworked. And they just don't have the time. They would not have the time to put the case together like this. So, and I see what you're saying. Maybe that lack of time forces them not to be able to dig into the conspiracy thing. To me, that is just like I would kill to be a fly on the wall for the discussions, this defense. These are all excellent defense attorneys. All of them on Karen's team are excellent lawyers. They're all highly experienced. This has been talked out frontwards and backwards, how they should approach this, and it's easier. Excuse me, y'all. When I don't have the pressure of being the attorney on the case to sit on this side of it and critique, it's way easier. When you're in it, it's different. But there is one absolute truth that any lawyer is going to tell you. In a case where you believe that your client is factually innocent, the only thing that matters is getting a not guilty. You're not trying cases like this for the principle of the thing. Like I've said it over and over, the people that believe that Karen struck John O'Keefe with their vehicle are never not going to believe that, no matter what the verdict is. You guys understand that, right? I mean, you see it. You see, like, no one, like, if this comes back with NGs, everybody's not going to be like, oh, well, geez, she didn't do it. They're going to be like, the jury got it wrong. That the slippery defense weaseled their way to a not get, it's going to be that. So you're never going to change the court of public opinion's mind on whatever they believe. So your role as an attorney in a case where your client
Jury,
you
please.
believe is factually innocent is get a not guilty. To me, the path of least resistance is to put as little of the conspiracy as you possibly can in that trial, because you're creating a de facto burden for yourself. So we'll see how it plays out, though. See how it plays out.
All rise to the court, please. Your attention.
Got great love for you, PD Delulu. Got great love for you. Y'all are heroes in there, public defenders.
Goes back to session and ABC.
All right, Mr. Brennan, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon. Just a few more items I'd like you to recognize. Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Showing you an envelope. Do you know what's in that envelope?
Yes, the raw data extraction of John O'Keefe's cell phone.
All right, ask it to be marked simply for identification, please.
Okay.
Exhibit A, identification.
Thank you.
Second folder.
Yes, the raw data extraction of Jen McCabe's cell phone that I created.
Thank you, sir. Your Honor, ask it to be marked for identification as well.
All right.
Exhibit B for identification.
Thank you.
Trooper, you shared with us that you downloaded the extraction of the phones that you identified and you made reports based on specific identified features. For example, a conversation between two people.
Yes, well, I didn't do the extraction of Jen's phone, but I made those reports with the PDFs from the data extraction.
Relative to Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant's phones, you created a document that provided us the phone calls between them on January 29th.
Yes, that's correct.
And separately, you also provided a document that included all of the chats or text messages between John O'Keefe and the defendant on January 29, 2022.
Yes, it also included the 28th.
Thank you.
Yes.
And in that compilation, did you put together or do you create or review a PowerPoint of those?
Yes, I did.
And what was the point of that?
Just to show the texts and calls in a chronological order, because that way you're not looking at two different documents, trying to compare and contrast the calls to text messages when each is coming in.
And did you begin that PowerPoint presentation with a call at 2:16:10 on January 28, 2022?
Yes, that's correct.
And are there additional chats or text messages earlier that morning?
Yes, there's a handful starting around 9:45 a.m.
May I
Yes.
approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Handing you a folder, sir. Could you take a look at it? Let us know if you recognize what's in it.
Yes. So this is the bulk of this is the PowerPoint calls and text messages, and then at the beginning, there's the messages from before 2:16 in the morning.
I'd like to introduce this as an exhibit, Your Honor.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
Exhibit 33.
For permission, I'd ask the witness to read the text messages from the morning hours, and then we begin the PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Do you have a hard copy of those for me?
It was provided. I'll see if you have another copy if you don't have it.
All right, I have, it's in here, the pre-morning hours. The ones that we discussed at Sidebar. If you don't have them,
The defense has a copy for you, Your Honor.
thank you.
Madam? I'm sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Little.
Okay, thank you.
May we begin, Your Honor?
Please.
Could you first read the text messages from that morning to the jury?
Yes. Apologize if I misspell things or state things. Start time, all right. It's a little different than the format I had before. All right, this is from Karen Reed to John O'Keefe. You have really hurt me this time. This was sent at 9:49:20 a.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, I'm sorry, this has been an issue with me for 8 years. It physically hurts me to see everyone else in their life do things for them, and I'm forced to always be the bad guy. This is sent at 10:02:56 a.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I'm not the same as everyone else. Most of the time I try to do what is healthy/smart for them. More importantly, I try to support you in what you need. You just lashed out at me and said terrible things. I don't know how you've gotten to this point with me when I'm just trying my hardest. You made your point and continue to beat me down. I have a lot going on too. Physically, I am falling apart and trying to get answers and help. 10:09:49 a.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe. I am just your girlfriend. I am not a perfect parent. I'm trying very hard and sometimes treat them nothing like I used to. 10:46 a.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant. I know, I'm sorry for lashing out. I'm just hurting and struggle daily with them. Always feel like I'm failing at this parenting thing. I wasn't built for this. 10:12 a.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe. Kaylee isn't perfect, but everything wonderful about her is because of you. 12:21:36 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, an emoji is sent at 12:21:59 on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, it's true, I know she's her mother's daughter, but she wouldn't be so bright and successful if she lived with anyone else. 12:22:51 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, wow, Kristen just sent 2 back-to-back messages to not lose your faith in the kids. 12:31:28 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, or in yourself, at 12:31:41 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, there's 2 emojis sent at 12:32:06 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, no, and there's 2 emojis. Life can pick you up sometimes. Please be happy with them and put away your frustrations for the rest of the day. And be so proud of yourself, JJ. That's 12:33:35 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, that's what bothers me more than anything. Should have sent Peg's or Sarah's W-2s. We are all equal guardians. 1:18:21 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, maybe you can call someone. 1:21:55 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, like who? 1:46:42 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, what time are you coming here? 1:47:38 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, it's another emoji sent, 2:05:30 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I don't know what time, feel kind of out of it, just trying to clear my head, 2:06:07 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, he writes, okay, 2:06:25 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, text me when you guys settle in later, 2:06:44 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, sure, 2:06:58 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to, oh, no, it's cut off, yes, sir.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
That must be where the, so,
Would it be helpful if I take it out of the binder?
I believe it, yeah, it goes to the next one, so I'll start. Yeah, sorry.
With the court's permission, we'll begin the PowerPoint.
Yes.
Should I
At your
do this
leisure.
first? Okay. The phone calls, text messages, and then we'll start with the first slide. This is from the defendant to John O'Keefe. I feel pretty shitty about how this morning went down. I know you said sorry, but it really stung, especially when I've been trying pretty hard lately. I feel like a loser turning around, just coming back over after everything you said. 2:16:10 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, not sure what you want me to do. He said, I'm sorry, and I was out of line. If you prefer to stay home, I totally get it. 2:17:16 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, things in my own life have been difficult too, you know. 2:17:33 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, I know. 2:17:40 p.m. on the 28th. At 2:17:45 p.m., the defendant calls John. The phone call is answered and they speak for 2 minutes, 22 seconds. 2:23:02 p.m., the defendant calls John. That's again answered. At 1:00, and they speak for 1 minute, 2 seconds. At 2:24:17 p.m., the defendant calls John and the call is rejected. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, tell me if you're interested in someone else. Can't think of any other reason you've been like this. 2:25:18 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, nope. 2:25:33 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, things haven't been great between us for a while. Ever consider that? 2:26:03 p.m. on the 28th. At 2:28:40 p.m., the defendant calls John. That call is rejected.
Mr. Greeno, can you explain to us the difference between not answered and rejected?
Yes, so if the call is not answered, that means the call rang out and goes to voicemail. If the call is rejected, that is someone actively hitting the send to voicemail button to disable the call to stop it from ringing. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, kids are here, not in the mood to talk. 2:29:03 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, so you're not into it anymore. That's fine, but I don't want to keep trying and you keep treating me like this. 2:29:12 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I'm trying to hug and kiss you this morning and you whack me in the face with a pillow. 2:29:59 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, last night you're basically like, yeah, what about when we talk about the future? So why don't you just admit you're not into so much anymore? 2:30:23 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, not how it went down, but okay. 2:30:26 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, can you please admit your head is out of the game with us? 2:30:52 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, sick of always arguing and fighting. It's been weekly for several months now. So yeah, I'm not quick to jump back into being lovey-dovey as you apparently. 2:32:28 p.m. on the 28th. At 2:32:47 p.m., the defendant calls John. That call is rejected. John O'Keefe to the defendant, OMG, stop calling. 2:32:54 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, then why would you start with me this morning? 2:32:58 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, you're setting me up to fail. 2:33:05 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, you started a number of fights from your end. 2:33:26 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, I've explained it a few times already, not doing it again. 2:33:31 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, so you're not into this anymore. 2:33:41 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, not into fighting all the time, correct. 2:34:03 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, if you tell me you're interested in someone else, you will never hear from me again. You can have all the space in the world. 2:34:11 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, he sends an emoji. 2:34:19 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, then stop starting with me. 2:34:20 p.m. on the 28th. 2:34:29 p.m. The defendant calls John. He rejects the call. John O'Keefe to the defendant. I'm not answering. Stop calling. 2:34:42 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, can you please answer after how you treated me earlier? 2:34:43 p.m. on 28th. 2:34:54 p.m. The defendant calls John. That's rejected. John O'Keefe to the defendant. Kaylee is right here. 2:35:02 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe. You start a rager with me out of nowhere and then tell me you're sick of fighting with me. 2:35:41 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe. I'm going to grab a drink in a bit. 2:38:14 p.m. on the 28th. 2:38:42 p.m. The defendant calls John. That call is rejected. The defendant to John O'Keefe, can you please answer? 2:38:52 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, no, Karen, not sure why you need to announce that you're going, not sure why you need to announce that you're grabbing a drink, but have fun. 2:39:46 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, seeing if you want to meet me later. 2:40:22 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, can you please call me? 2:40:32 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, have to take them to the doctor. He has practice. 2:40:55 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, yeah, 5 minutes. 2:41:17 p.m. on the 28th. At 2:43:01 p.m., the defendant calls John. It's not answered. At 2:43:45 p.m., the defendant calls John. The call is rejected. John O'Keefe to the defendant. My father just walked in. 2:43:58 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe. Okay, can you please call me for 2 minutes? 2:44:14 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant. Not right now. 2:44:23 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe. I'm there when anyone else needs me. 2:44:26 p.m. on the 28th. At 2:45:32 p.m., the defendant calls John. The call is rejected. The defendant calls Mr. O'Keefe. Yes, John, you gave me utter grief this morning. I'd like you to call me for amends. 2:46:16 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe. I've been trying to get over the hump with is arguing, and now you tell me you're not into doing things, and you don't want to fight weekly, but fly off the handle at 8 a.m. with me, like you're setting me up to fail. 2:47:08 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe. I've been dealing with my own personal crisis over things I have zero control over. I'd like to lean on you too sometimes. Instead, I just hear everything I've done wrong. 2:48:34 p.m. on the 28th. At 2:56 p.m., the defendant calls John. The call is rejected. At 2:51:13 p.m., the defendant calls John. It's rejected. 2:52:37 p.m., John calls the defendant. It's not answered. At 2:53:56, the defendant calls John. Again, not answered. The defendant, John O'Keefe, you seriously cannot pick up the phone for 2 seconds. 2:54:13 p.m. 2:58:05 p.m., the defendant calls John. It's rejected. At 2:59:13, John calls the defendant. The call is answered and they speak for 4 minutes, 59 seconds. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, why don't you meet me at Hillside at 4:30/5, 3:08:55 p.m. John O'Keefe to the defendant sends an emoji at 3:10:08 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, or whenever you get, or whenever you get everyone settled, 3:10:35 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, like I said, doctor now, and he has practice till 6. If you want to go start drinking, then go for it. 3:36:21 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe, I didn't know the times of his practice. 3:36:40 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I just want to give you space at the house without me there. So rather meet you out than meet at the house. 3:37:01 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, yeah, well, now there's a 72-year-old taking up shop on my couch. 3:37:36 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe, yeah, that too. 3:37:46 p.m. 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, is he going to Collins? 3:38:23 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, not tonight. 3:38:32 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, so do you plan on going out tonight? 3:39:01 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, Karen, I don't know. 3:39:17 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, you're like jonesing to drink, so go. 3:39:43 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, okay, well, after how this morning went down, I don't think I need to be back over there with you. Get frustrated at how I am with the kids. Has nothing to do with drinking. 3:40 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I am paranoid now that everything I do with them is problematic. So rather see you for a minute without it, kids around. 3:40:24 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, what's your plan at 4:47:16 p.m. on the 28th? From the defendant to John O'Keefe, don't have one. 4:50:09 p.m. on the 28th. For John O'Keefe to the defendant, so still home. 4:50:26 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe, yes. 4:50:45 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, we just got home, waiting to see what Papa decides here, or else I have to get Patrick at 6. 4:59:45 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant, John O'Keefe, okay. 5:01:55 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, so are you staying home or coming here? 5:02:23 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, waiting to see what you end up doing. I don't want to hang out at the house too much, like I said. 5:03:40 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I think it's clear me around the kids, I think it's clear me around with the kids around is slowly killing our relationship, and our relationship is much more important to me. 5:04:16 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, well, there's a blizzard coming, so we'll be inside all weekend. 5:04:19 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe, it will be over by noon tomorrow. 5:04:44 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, don't think so. 5:05:27 p.m. on the 28th. Defendant to John O'Keefe, I don't want to keep having this constant conflict of the dynamic of the four of us. The harder I try, the more it kills our relationship as a couple. It feels like utter shit to be in that position. Rather just meet you out for drinks when you figure out what your night looks like. 5:06:45 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, well, I have no idea what's going on, so do what you want. 5:07:34 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, need to figure out what everyone here is doing. All I know now is Madeline is coming over. No clue about Patrick yet, or if Papa is planning on hanging it for a few more hours. 5:09:29 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, okay, well, when you know the story and if you want me to come up, let me know. 5:12:36 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, no, Karen, you decide what you want to do. 5:13:18 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I know your heart isn't in this anymore. I felt it for a while and especially lately. I'm willing to try more, but not if you not if you approaching the point of indifference. If you want me to come up and you can head out for a while, then say so when you know what your father is doing. 5:14:23 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, you come up and I head out, really? Emoji. 5:15:48. John O'Keefe to the defendant, I've told you already, I don't bounce back as quickly as you do after we have a battle. 5:16:52 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, no, head out together with an emoji. 5:17:49 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, or meet out. 5:17:54 on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, gonna send Patrick to Collins tonight. They're picking him up around 7. Mike may hang out too when he brings Matt over. So why don't you just come over? 5:19:42 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, Mike doesn't want to go out for a bit. 5:20:20 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I would like to, been a shit day from the jump. 5:20:33 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, probably 5:20:39 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, I just got sober an hour ago. 5:20:56 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I'll text you, hang with Mike for a few. I don't need to butt in. Text me if/when you think you may head out. 5:25:12 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, can you send me Tim Zoll's contact info, please? 5:26:38 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, I paid the last bill. 5:27:08 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, you didn't have to do that, thanks. 5:27:43 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, are you really not going to accept my friend request? 5:32:33 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, an emoji on what, FB? 5:33:01 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, yeah, we've been going out for 2 years. 5:33:20 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, I haven't gone on. You defriended me over a year ago, I believe. 5:33:48 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, Carrie texted that they're headed out in a bit. 6:05:29 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, okay. 6:14:55 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, she's going to let me know where. 6:17:51 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, so you're going to meet them. 6:18:12 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, just presenting it as an option. Wouldn't mind hanging out with them for a drink. 6:19 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, is Mike over? 6:27:26 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, yes. 6:29:45 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, sounds you're like good with getting together tonight. 6:31:32 p.m. on the 28th.
Okay,
From the defendant to
not
John O'Keefe,
with that in my
was
office.
hoping after this morning you'd be interested in smoothing things over with me. 6:32:24 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, told you to come over, but you insisted on meeting me out somewhere. 6:33:44 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, Mike is a little off with me for a while now. I've said that multiple times. 6:34:34 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to Karen, the defendant, time to get over it, Karen. He's fine. He was fine the other night when he came by. 6:38:09 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, yeah, wouldn't mind hanging out with other people, like another female too. 6:39:09 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, where are you meeting them? 6:39:28 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I don't have plans with them. She just said they're headed out in a bit and will text when they land somewhere. 6:39:52 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, if you want to go out with Mike Solo, that's fine. Just let me know. 6:40:17 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, I already told you what you should do. Not going to keep doing this. 6:41:07 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I asked to let me know if you guys are going to head out. I haven't been out for drinks this week and had a shit week and a shit day. And I dread Kaylee or Pat is going to get chatty with me the second I walk in, and that is going to irritate you. 6:43:21 on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, Pat is leaving. Kay is with Mad Cam. 6:44:02 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, I'll text Chris then. 6:46:44 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, we're headed out shortly. What's your plan, Karen? 7:06:13 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, do you want me to join or no? 7:06:37 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, yes, wasn't sure if you were meeting the Currans. 7:07:04 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, they are not out drinking yet. 7:07:40 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, where are you headed? 7:09:22 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, trying to decide maybe McCarthy's. 7:14:48 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, okay then, let me know where you decide. I'm still down in Enfield. 7:21:50 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, text me when you leave. Still waiting on McKinney's. 7:22:28 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I'm having issues with my hot water, so had to text someone to take a look. 7:24:11 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, an emoji, you trying to piss me off. 7:25:35 on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, hope your plumber buddy that you texted is hot. 7:26:24 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, nope, my shower only got lukewarm and now my sink won't run hot at all. The plumber I used is right down the road. 7:26:27 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I turned that temp thing in the basement all the way up. 7:26:52 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, check the hot water heater and see if it's leaking. 7:26:52 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe, it's not. 7:26:59 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, don't do that. 7:27:01 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, is the pilot lit? 7:27:08 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I was trying to get my shower hot. 7:27:12 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, yes, 7:27:14 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, don't turn it up Don't turn it all the way up. 7:27:26 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, it will burn out. 7:27:32 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I had this issue twice before and it wasn't a disaster. I just can't remember what the cause was. 7:27:41 on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, just turn it back to where it was and get over here. 7:28:08 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I don't want to come home in a blizzard and then really be up shit creek. 7:28:53 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, so you're going home tonight. 7:29:18 p.m. on the 28th. And the defendant to John O'Keefe, or tomorrow or whenever. I've had a chill all day since my shower. 7:29:45 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, it's going to snow all day tomorrow. No driving. 7:30:05 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, we're headed to McCarthy's. 7:41:29 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, okay, let me know if you end up leaving. 7:41:57 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, why? Now you're not coming. 7:42:27 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I'm waiting for the plumber. I actually think he's in the driveway. 7:42:56 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, we're taking Mike's car, so I'm relying on you for a ride home if he leaves. 7:43:10 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, he's not going home after. 7:43:27 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, 8 o'clock on a Friday, emoji, 7:43:31 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, he may have to get Michael, 7:43:46 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, you have a plumber coming over at 8, knowing me and Papa could have handled it. Good luck. 7:44:36 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I have always told you I will not put either of you out of your way the way everyone else in your life does. I knew it wasn't working right when you were at the doctor's with Kaylee, and I knew neither of you could get here. And this guy, Richie, fixed it last time, whatever it was. He was supposed to be here at 5, 7:48:01 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, if it's not a quick fix, I'll tell him to forget it. 7:48:20 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, if you need a new water heater, don't let him do it. 7:55:04 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant text from the defendant to John O'Keefe, he's here now. If it's not quick, I'm not doing it. I just want to make sure nothing is wrong / will go wrong with when I'm not home. 7:55:44 on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, he's not the quick stuff he doesn't even charge me for. 7:56:06 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, he just put the toilet seats on crooked. 7:56:28 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, status, 8:09:02 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, still here with an emoji, 8:09:18 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, said he's got to go to HD and probably be back mañana, 8:23:56 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, so 8:24:43 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, an emoji, 8:25:02 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, just trying to figure out if I need to be here, 8:25:51 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, what does it need? 8:26:01 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I don't know. He showed me some pieces that was all rusted. With an emoji. I don't understand half this stuff. 8:26:42 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant on the water heater. 8:26:59 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, yes, 8:27:08 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, tell him to leave it. I'll take care of it Sunday or Monday, 8:28:30 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, no, it's okay. I can either meet him here or just shut off the alarm, 8:28:52 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, he used to work here while I was at work, 8:29:02 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, does he realize it will be whiteout conditions tomorrow a.m., 8:29:32 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, yeah, but he lives right down the road, 8:29:47 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, Karen, this storm is going to be intense. Can't drive, 8:30:19 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, okay, well, if he can't, he can't, 8:30:36 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, I'll do it Monday, 8:30:56 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I better not still have this problem on Monday, 8:31:22 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, you plan on being there, 8:31:43 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I'd to know I can take a hot shower there here if I need to, 8:32:14 p.m. on the 28th. Figured you'd be, from John O'Keefe to the defendant, figured you'd be in Canton until Monday, 8:32:32 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, I'm getting off my phone. Let me know what you're doing, 8:32:54 p.m. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I think the four of us together is toxic to this relationship. Would like to limit it, 8:33:16 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, you said so yourself for probably a year now, 8:33:52 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, blizzard tomorrow, nobody is going anywhere, 8:33:56 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, maybe I'll come back late tonight. Bad snow is in the early a.m., 8:35:14 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I'll head up there in a few min. Let me know if you leave, 8:35:26 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, an emoji, he says, sure, 8:35:34 p.m. on the 28th. That was the last of them.
We're almost done, sir.
And you can feel free to stand.
Okay, thank you, Honor.
So that presentation is a compilation of text messages and phone calls between John O'Keefe and the defendant on January 28, 2022.
Yes, that was.
Aside from that compilation, are there other text messages and phone calls that you've reviewed between John O'Keefe and the defendant that evening, January 28, 2002, going into past midnight, January 29, 2022?
Yes, there's more text messages.
And those text messages and phone calls, are they a separate compilation from this?
Yes, that's correct.
Or at this time, I'd ask us to release Trooper Garino and recall him at a later date.
Yes. All right. There's no objection, Mr. Alessi, correct?
No objection, subject to the.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much, Trooper. We'll see you another time.
Thank you, Honor. You can just leave it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Is this the time for me to see counsel at sidebar? Okay. Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to introduce exhibits or clips 7 through 11.
34. Thank you.
With the court's permission, could I begin with clip 7?
Yes.
Bob, they're doing some construction upstairs, so I'm gonna read to my home office. I'll see you in like 45 minutes to an hour.
Love you, man.
Absolutely. This has been good. Like, hell, these clips, murderous. Like, murder your client. Murder your client.
Yeah, I
Ever,
know.
ever. It's horrifying that they let her do. Like, I get it. Man, whoa.
It's created so much extra work, and I believe it's going to force her to have to testify for context.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, if the squeeze happens after the Commonwealth's presentation and they've made the solid case, and they're just gonna play these clips 90 million times. Like, if I'm Brennan, I'm playing this during basically every cross one way or another, just to drive the point home. Look at her in her own words, who you're not going to hear from. And they don't get to say that, but come on, you've been in trial a million times. The state just infers it. You can't have the person sitting in court. Hey, everybody, we're all here for them. Oh, yeah, Fifth Amendment. Yeah. We're all here for them. Look, she'll be on TV, but she won't talk to you, jurors. You don't have to say any of that.
Right.
It exists in the room.
Yep.
And if she loses this case, which is absolutely possible, nothing's been decided one way or another. Heavy duty. It's because of those interviews.
They hurt.
In my opinion,
they hurt. They hurt.
I'll see you guys within about an hour or so. I imagine they're going to take a break here relatively soon. You know, it's got stuff going, but it has not been the fireworks this morning. I don't think we've seen anything dispositive. When it comes to trial timing, if you drop big storylines in a multi-week trial, you got to think about pacing. Today is Thursday. It is just the third day. Tomorrow, man, that's where you want to really impact jurors for the weekend.
Yep, always.
That last word, first word on Friday, that's big. Witness planning. I won't be surprised if we see any time-sucking shenanigans. That's when they happen, is on a Friday. Because Judge Cannone, she likes getting people out of there. She's not keeping there till 7 o'clock at night. No. Because there are judges that will literally try your case until everybody says, I want to go home. I've been
Are they off tomorrow?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right. Tomorrow is the Arc of Wadir.
Yep.
So
is that tomorrow or Monday?
Yeah, no, I think that's tomorrow's the Arc of Wadir. Court's dark for witness, but they're going to be there arguing the Arc of Wadir, I think, is tomorrow, which then it shouldn't be as important time-wise with the jury with how they end today.
Yeah, we have a split in the chat. They're saying it's Monday. Like, I thought she moved it to Monday.
Did she?
So I don't know.
It's so hard to keep. I mean, it's literally because y'all, I don't know if you understand it. At the same time as this trial, which I want to watch so bad, Harvey Weinstein's case is going on right now, and people don't understand. He's not that far from walking out of prison. I know that's hard for people to believe. He does well in this New York case, goes to California, gets a change from the consecutive to concurrent. That will upset people to a degree that And then
my buddy Damon Sharonis, he's a Chicago guy. He came in on his New York trial late, like in the like close to the beginning of trial. This guy I went to law school with. He's not using the same lawyers, is he?
He's using that new fancy lady from LA, and I forget her name, but she's become kind of a big fixer lady. Adelaida. I'm trying to remember. I'm sure it's somewhere on New York Post or something like that. But that's interesting. There's a lot of true crime stuff happening right now.
A lot of shit.
Karen Reed. What I'm very interested in is seeing how the national press picks this up, because we keep just barely breaching the national stories. But the national news schedule right now is so intensely full. There are more big international, national, domestic business stories that media doesn't even know how to divide. And that's why there hasn't been the attention on this Karen Reed case, because there's so much else going on. I still see us kind of breaching up. Won't be surprised if we see a bunch of Saturday and Sunday show treatment, because this is affecting a lot of people. A lot of people are tuned into this.
Big time. Big
So,
time.
I'll see
All
you guys
go-
in the
go
car.
move. All right.
Yep.
Later.
At the water.
All right, I'm going to bloop it back.
When you walked out of the bar, how many drinks had you had?
I had probably about 4, and not 4 that I completed either. I didn't drink maybe more than a few sips at the waterfall.
And 4 drinks you felt fine to drive?
Yep.
Clip 8, please.
And is the level of intoxication pretty high here for everybody?
It's happy.
Yeah.
It's,
You had a lot to drink, right?
I wouldn't say, I have like a normal amount. Let's say, like a vodka tonic every 40 minutes.
Okay. And so are you feeling like buzzed? And I'm not judging, I'm just trying to get a
Yeah,
sense.
buzzed.
Yeah.
Clip 9, please.
The final count of my alcohol intakes, probably about 5 or 6 or 4. The drinks that they were pouring me at McCarthy's, which is where I consumed most of the alcohol, was the weakest vodka tonic. It tasted just like all soda water with lime. Not that I need it to be a martini, but it might have had a splash of vodka in it. So I said, John, this drink tastes like it has no vodka in it. He said, just get a shot and mix it yourself. So each drink was being counted as a double. So I would get a vodka tonic and then I would pour a shot into it. So that would count as 2. But frankly, it just felt like a regular cocktail. It was just a really weak pour. So I asked for a shot. So for my taste, it just tasted like that's the normal strength of what a drink should be. So I had maybe 2 or 3 that are being counted as 4 and 6. And I don't know. I felt fine. I felt like I was buzzed. And then there was one drink, the last one that was given to me, which I would have counted as 3, but they're counting as my 6th cocktail. The guys that we were with brought around shots, and they gave me one that I didn't drink, but I poured it in my drink. So that's now my 5th and 6th drinks, with the 7th, which is a shot that all the men did, and I poured it. So that one glass that I'm holding, that I go into the waterfall with, has 3 drinks in it, a vodka tonic and 2 shots. And which is why John said to me, you're not leaving that drink here, like you haven't touched it and just poured a bunch of vodka. He's like, just take it with you, which is something he always did. So then I go into waterfall and I put that drink down and I socialize most of the time. So that would have been my 5th, 6th, and 7th drinks. Then John orders me a drink at the waterfall that I don't drink, that he takes with him. And then there was a round of shots that Chris Howard bought that I did take. So that would have been the night. But I did not consume 9 vodka martinis or take 9 shots, depending on how you count it. And the last 2 drinks I didn't touch.
Clip 10, please.
I mean, I'm not as clear as I would be if I hadn't been drinking. I mean, I had drank, so, and that led me to question, like, could I have hit him? Did I run over his foot or hit him in the knee? Did I incapacitate him? I mean, I always drive with my music blasting ever since I was 16. And I know when John got out of the car to go into Fairview, I know my car was blasting because when I got in it the next morning to go look for him, I had to immediately turn it down. And I don't know, it's stormy. I have had a few cocktails. I didn't black out, but I wasn't as lucid as I would have been if I had gone to bed at 9 and drank a tea. But so I was fuzzier than I would have been if I had no alcohol.
Clip 11, please.
How did you feel after that many drinks? When you got in the car, did you feel like you could drive, and did you feel how
I wouldn't have gotten on the expressway. I wouldn't have gotten on the expressway at 12:15 on January 29th. I mean, it was quiet. The roads were very quiet. You can see it on the videos. And I was going, when I've had a few drinks and I drive, I always drive extra slow. So I know my alerts aren't as sharp as they should be. But I shouldn't have been driving. But I don't think I was driving. I know I wasn't driving recklessly. I mean, I've got plenty of video of myself driving all over the place. I put my car in John's garage, which is incredibly narrow, and I had a very oversized SUV. You see me. There's a video of me driving through the intersection when we leave Waterfall to go to Brian Albert's, and I was always taught by my father, even when you have a green light, you always should tap the brake. You don't know who's going to run red. And I see me doing that multiple times between 12 and 1 and 5 and 6 a.m. So I know I was driving safely, not as safely or as alert as I would be if I had no alcohol. But I was not driving recklessly by any measure.
Thank you. Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, look, the jury's going to come back with one guilty verdict for sure on this case, and it's the DUI, the straight up DUI. I mean, it's what this case should have always just have been, because it's the only thing that they could prove, in my estimation. Now, Brennan's putting together a much better case than Lally. That's facts. Like, the presentation of the text was way better. And it's just way more crisp. Again, that is, well, there's the DUI with leaving the scene. So to me, that's the straight up DUI is what I'm talking about. It doesn't have the homicide attached to it, I don't think.
All right, jurors, there was some.
Oh, does it have the
confusion in council
OUI? I gotta
regarding
relook at the.
witnesses. So those are the witnesses for today, so we're done for today.
Wow.
Council assures me that won't happen again, but
Wow.
more importantly, we're on track. We're on schedule, not going for the rest of the day, won't interfere with our schedule at all. It looks like it's, I can't tell with all the curtains here, but it looks like it's a beautiful day. You'll have a nice afternoon. Tomorrow we'll be going on in view. So for that, we're comfortable close. We'll be walking around a little bit. We'll be going by bus, and I'll have more instructions for you tomorrow morning. But please follow those instructions. Do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into this case. If you happen to see, hear, read anything about this case, please disregard it and let us know, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. Remember, tomorrow's a holiday.
All rise for the court, please.
Wow.
Close your notebook to follow me.
That's not Canone's fault. That's Hank's fault for not having more witnesses lined up for the day. I don't know if he anticipated that Alessi was going to cross Gorino on what they showed. Like, I don't know if that's what he thought. But that's not Canone on this. This one ain't on her. This one's definitely on. This is on Hank Bryant for not having his witnesses lined up. Yeah, it's with the half day tomorrow. So now Hank knew that, and it's exactly what
Mr.
Josh
Brennan,
was
have you
talking
had an
about.
opportunity to think about whether experts should
So now the jury is going to be sitting with those clips in their head over the long weekend.
be permitted to either be present or watch. Experts should be permitted to either be present or watch the proceeding. And I also want to know, are you expecting to put on any expert testimony tomorrow?
Dr. Fowler will testify tomorrow. I think that should be considered expert testimony. He provides the procedures and protocol for the testing of blood serum.
Okay.
So I think he's technically considered an expert, although one of the briefer ones.
All right. Does the defense want an expert to be able to watch that? All right. So I know we've had a lot going on this morning. Do you want to address this tomorrow? When do you want to address whether experts should be present?
If I can address it tomorrow morning, I can consider
All right.
it.
We'll do that. And have you talked about who you all mean? Like, do you all know who you want to have exempt from the sequestration order?
We haven't got to that detail. I'm sure they have in mind who they want. I haven't gotten to that point yet.
All
We
right.
can have that discussion so that we can present it tomorrow what my position is and address the court on the witnesses.
Sure, we can do that. And then I know you said that you've got an agreement that you'll provide witnesses or a list of witnesses in advance to defense counsel, and I'm sure you'll provide witnesses in advance to Mr. Brennan. Include me on that, please. I just like to know
Very
who's
well.
coming up the next day because I have to prepare as well.
Happy to. Thank you.
Okay? All right, so we'll see you tomorrow morning.
Thank you again.
There is court tomorrow morning. Jesus. So is it a half day or a full day tomorrow? I know that they moved ARCA to Monday. So is it a full day or a half day tomorrow? Better be a full day. I mean, as lawyers, you don't necessarily hate half days like this because the amount of work that goes on for prepping, half day tomorrow, Jesus. Yeah, I mean, look, whatever. I mean, don't be afraid to say it. It's like it's hard to keep up with the scheduling. So a half day. All right. All right. I mean, this thing's taken all of 10 weeks. There's no question about it in my mind. So I want to talk a little bit about the text messages. I mean, to me, that looks like a relationship that I wouldn't call super solid. I think there's definitely strong feelings there between the two of them. I think that they both realize that there's issues with the relationship, whether it be Karen's relationship with the kids, Karen's, the things that she does with the kids that he thinks is spoiling the kid, whatever the case may be. Whatever the case may be. There's a term that I use that I think is effective in a lot of relationships. I call it negative dependency, where there's a lot of negative things going on, but they still have a dependency on one another. And I think that that's evident here. I think that the thing that is important, and I wish Allie was on because she could obviously speak to it much more personally than I can, but in terms of the fact that Karen was menstruating, like, I mean, she was on her period, and I think Allie would agree that, I mean, Allie will tell you flat out, she's like, she's way more emotional during that time of month. I think that was an important, like, low key fact that came out during the testimony with whatever his name is, Whitty or Whitey, whatever the hell his name was. So I think, like, you have to, like, everything has to be taken in context. All right, hold on. Allie's texting me. I'll take the usual, babe. Just get me the chorizo thing. Hold on, let me move this off. So I didn't find that to be compelling at all, one way or the other. I thought it would look like a relationship that's got problems. I didn't find Karen to be, I thought she was trying to be honest about her kind of views of the relationships. I think she was being honest. And when I say relationships, I'm talking about with her and John and her and the kids and her, John and the kids. I think she was, I mean, that was like, I thought John was being super passive aggressive, you know, he just was. I know it was frustrating. Like, somebody just say, yeah, we'll get together later. Like, just cut the bullshit. Let's just, yeah, I'll see you later. You know what I mean? But in terms of the reality of it certainly, I mean, now why Hank Brennan, when he intended on showing all that in the way that they did with that chalk with the, because it was well done in the sense that it was a nice way to go through text messages. I much prefer that than looking at a celluloid extraction and having to kind of like look through all the shit on there to try to find it, like, which we see a lot in trials. That was like a real clear flow of a conversation that was taking place via text. But my bigger point was we know now why Hank completely moved away from the intentionality of the act. It's clear she didn't hate John. It's clear that they still had feelings, even though there was conflicted feelings, I think by both of them, which is fair and that's okay. There's no crime in that. There's no crime in a relationship that's got issues that they're mutually trying to decide whether or not they should try to fight it out. I mean, John knows for a fact that kids are going nowhere. I mean, how does that work in John's world in terms of if she's saying like the kids are not good for the relationship, they're killing the relationship, which is probably just a very honest assessment. Doesn't mean that Karen didn't care for the kids or love the kids, but she knows that they theoretically have very different parenting styles. Like John takes exception to the fact when she spoils them, and she likes to spoil the kids, and it causes conflict in the relationship. I mean, it's a real thing. It's a real thing, and it's not dispositive of anything. It doesn't move the needle in the case in terms of what happened that night at all. So, but I think it does give an important context, and I think that if the defense is smart, they're going to kind of drive home that point again that it was that time of month for Karen. So it's just anything that you may be reading from those text messages, just remember that. I mean, and I think that with women, it'll resonate. It'll resonate in a way that you kind of like, yeah, all right, I forgot it because I forgot that, and I don't know if that was brought up at the trial, but when I started thinking about it as I was reading the text, I was thinking about my relationship with my wife, and like I'll forget. I will absolutely forget. What? Why? Allie, why are you calling me? I'm not answering the phone, dude. Like I'm in the middle of a live. My wife is like literally watching and calling. Uh maybe she didn't watch. Sorry, guys. So yeah, I like to me, it didn't do anything for me in terms of the state moving the needle. Now we know that he's already setting it up for the angry phone calls, which to me are completely in the norm. To me, it was great to give the jurors the context that they had beef that morning. That they kind of worked it out. They got back together. They're with other people, so they're acting affectionate, and I think that the affection's real. They're not going to go out and hang out and dredge up the shit. They're trying to move past whatever happened in the morning, and they're trying to have a nice night. And I think like most relationships, there's going to be ups and downs, like all relationships. anybody who's sitting here and saying that every day of your relationship with your significant other is like living in a fantasy is full of shit. It's just not that way. Like like no one that's being honest could ever say that, because it's just not how life is. It's relationships are a battle, you know, and if it's a great relationship, it's worth the battle. Um, so as far as yeah, but so was John, Julia, Gulia. I mean, she was impaired from drinking. I think that's true, but again, to me, what that goes to, I don't think anybody's ever denied the fact that she was impaired. I think we've heard her say that she was impaired. We just watched a bunch of clips. To me, all that proves is not that she hit John O'Keefe. I'm relying on the science for that, because unfortunately, because Karen was impaired, the one thing that I feel very clear about is that she doesn't know what happened that night. You know what I'm saying? And it's like when you see these clips of Karen adamantly saying, "I didn't hit John," it's not because she magically was able to have recollection of things that she doesn't have recollection to. It's because she hired lawyers that dug into the science of the case and have been able to show her that the vehicle didn't strike John. I mean, do people like I feel like there's people out there that don't understand that distinction, and it's weird. Or just so it's like she has been convinced by digging into the evidence of the case that John wasn't struck by the vehicle. That's why she's sure, not because she now magically remembers it. So yeah, and I mean, Jam, it's a good point. Everyone involved was impaired. I mean, when you say, "Oh, there's no way," there's no way she should have done the interviews. No, not a chance in hell. Anybody who thinks that was a good idea, then apparently you've never been on trial for your life. Like that is like, if you're sitting there as the attorney and you're trying to be stone faced while he's playing these, and most of them are very nondescript. Most of them are very nondescript. Most of them are just her saying shit, that I don't think moves the needle at all. But he's gonna keep hammering him home. He's gonna that I mean, to me, that's the key, Jammin. Is there's no evidence that he was struck by a vehicle on John O'Keefe's body, nor on the vehicle. And they have really reputable doctors and scientists that are going to come in and drive that point home. That's why I'm always saying, like, I see it in the chat. Yeah, he was beaten up in the house. Maybe. But the one thing that they don't have, the defense, is proof of that. It's a theory, and that's okay. They don't have an actual burden, but they create one for themselves when they bring up the third party culprit defense in the minds of the jurors. And that's a different thing. The state has an actual burden. And the defense is creating a burden for themselves with the third party culprit thing, where the jury is going to have expectations. And if they can't deliver on it, to me, it just clouds the issue. When you have such powerful evidence through the ARCA witnesses, especially the ARCA witnesses, and whatever else that we're hearing about the phone temperature, and about these eyewitnesses that say that John went into the home. I don't know if that's Karen. I mean, it seems like it can only be Karen unless there's a witness that none of us know about that they dug up. And it seemed to me, if there was somebody that was in that house that the defense dug up, if they would have gone to Brennan with like, all right, well, we got somebody that was in that house, that Brennan would have had to drop the case. So to me, it seems like it could only be Karen. Yeah, I remember that, J&H. I remember Higgins saying he saw somebody else, tall dude, brown hair, which sounded like it certainly could have been John. So I don't know. It was interesting. Interesting. I'm disappointed that it was a short day. But I think it was there wasn't, as Josh said, there wasn't a ton of fireworks today, but it was interesting. And I think that those text messages gave a lot of context to the jury. And I think that I think that will play out throughout the course of the trial in terms of I just think it's important to know what was going on that day. And it really it drove home the point on why Hank Brennan was not going in, that she with this whole concept that she intentionally did it, which is a complete 180 from Lally. Don't forget, Lally was really trying to sell this was intentional, that she was furious, that she purposefully did it. Hank was smart enough to realize that was bullshit. So I give him a tip of the cap to that. I've always said it. That was a ridiculous concept. Whether he's going to be able to sell the other aspect of second degree, is yet to be determined. So we're still early on in this case, y'all. Early on. Like nobody should be panicking. Nobody should be like, we have a long way to go. Long way to go. We're in the very beginning stages of it. Yeah, today did suck, Madison. I agree. It was way too short. These people are giving up 2 months of their life to sit on this thing. Fortunately, they get to go home. Like, could you imagine if they I had never heard of a jury other than OJ's was sequestered for over a year. And then there was that one case, I Googled it at one point, that case where they had sequestered jurors for, it was longer than OJ. It was the daycare center with the abuse that was going on. I can't remember what the name of it was, but that jury was sequestered forever. So thankfully the jury gets to go home and spend the weekends with their family. And that's helpful in terms of their mental well-being, because being sequestered is rough if you're a juror, especially if they're shutting you down from having to, not get on your phone. Do you think, and this is I want you to be honest, do you think that there's I cannot go, like, say for instance, there's like a game I want to watch and I've got something else going on and I'm going to try my very best not to look at the score of that game. I'm going to do everything in my power not to look at the score or look at my text messages from my friends, and try to go watch it at home as if I'm watching it from the beginning. It is almost impossible to avoid it. When you are geographically located in the town that the trial is happening in, and how are they avoiding it completely? Are they never using their phones? And I'm talking about the jurors. I just don't see how they're going to avoid it. But I guess that's kind of the advantage to the fact that they all know about the case. So, this thing is going to be tried differently. If you don't see that by now, I don't know what to tell you. This is going to be a very different case. Hank Brennan is coming way more prepared, and the defense is way more prepared. That's what you get with the second trial. Both sides get to tighten it up, and both sides have tightened it up. To me, I just sit there. It's hilarious that they have Lally sitting there. Lally is going to do nothing in this trial other than sit next to. Is that like some kind of penance? Why is he sitting in there? I don't know. It's crazy to me. So, all right, y'all. You guys are amazing. I'm so thankful that so many of you hung out with us today. And I'm so thankful that Josh was able to. I'm going to have to let him know. He'll figure out he's off the hook for the day. But I want to have Josh coming in whenever he's got time. I love him. He's brilliant. He says very insightful things if you're willing to listen. We're never going to miss trial. I'll pause things. This isn't like a cliffhanger. Every witness isn't a cliffhanger. You know, if there's the one thing that I'll be hyper conscious about is if we're at a peak moment, I won't be pausing it. Okay. When we're on a witness that's giving foundational testimony, it's okay if we pause it and talk a little bit. We're not going to miss it. You'll see it, and we'll get to it in a few minutes. So it's like, I hope you guys value it. If you don't, we're not the channel for you because it's never going away ever. It's the entire point of our channel. So, and I think it's interesting, and I love being able to talk to other lawyers. I love being able to talk to my wife about it. You know, when there's interesting things happening, because I don't have the ability to be able to talk to you guys. I try to be active in the chat, but you know how it is when you're chatting, you're not paying rapt attention to what's happening on like if I'm tweeting or looking and reading the chat and responding to y'all in the chat, I'm missing things. You have to. You can't do like your brain doesn't work like that. Maybe at least 99.9% of us don't work like that. So all right, half day tomorrow. We'll be back bright and early. Please make sure that you like, share, subscribe. It means a lot to us in terms of getting us out to the algorithm. It's a little thing you could do free. But let me make sure. I want to thank everybody who donated today. I'll go through them. I think I made through. I know Mello. I went through the Louisville. Donna White. I know I thanked you. Deja. I love y'all. I hate that I'm working. We hate that you're working too. You're always such a value add. Little Miss Velvet, Little Miss Red Velvet, $5 super. We appreciate you. We love having you over here, Little Miss Velvet. Deja came back again with the same chat. Thank you 2 times. Amanda, only fan, better than Dull Light, 100%. Malo, as a Kentuckian, love that. I mean, got to get it right. It's like I screw up enough pronunciations. Louisville, I got it down flat. So thank you for that. Chrissy, gonna need some Bob Brenner impressions. I gave you one little Brennan injection. So that was early on. Alessi never sleeps. TB addressed Hank shouting out yesterday mid-argument. He said it was because Karen turned around and looked at him and she's inside his head. Sounds unlikely, but maybe. I mean, the defendant's allowed to look at whatever she wants to look at. So, like, I can't. That would be weird if Brennan did that. Jessica, how many times can people refer to the previous trial? I mean, apparently, as much as they want. I mean, I think they're trying to term it as testimony without articulating the word trial, but I've heard it slip out a few times. But thank you for your generosity. Camilla, thank you so much for your $5 hollow. Billy Juno, we have Lally's raspy objection. What do we call Hank's nasally objection? We'll have to come up with a good name for it. It'll still be a objection because I'm doing it. Thank you so much, Billy Juno. Appreciate you, brother. Grin for me. Bob, if I found you lying on someone's front lawn, I would just feed you. Hashtag feed Bob. Thanks, Grin. Grin knows. Grin knows. Grin knows. Got to feed me. Otherwise, that's what Allie was trying to do. Kaylee H, remember for 4 months, the clips give me the ick. I physically cringe. Yeah, they're not a great look. Not a great look. Like, to me, the most probably cringy one was the one where she's making the face about, Peggy O'Keefe. It was not a good look for Karen. It's like if you were to ask Karen if there were a portion of that they would cut out because she doesn't look great in it, she's making like a kind of ugly face there. I'm sure Karen would be the first one to tell you, yeah, I'd love to get rid of that. I live with a lot of women in my house. Like I have to clear every photograph before I post anything of any of the women and young women being scout that I intend on posting. I have to get clearance. I need clearance, Clarence. Otherwise, I'm in deep shit. And I respect that. And I respect that. I gotta give to Allie. I'm like, can I post this one? It's like, I look horrible. I'm like, you look beautiful. But thank you so much. Jason, McClellan, Karen Reed should give evidence. She has done media and a full mistrial. Love United's work and cross with prior inconsistent statements, but too aggressive. Not a good look with the firefighter. Excuse me, now EMT. Yeah, I mean, that could be the case. That could be the case. Now, I don't know, Jason, I read from a Boston lawyer who's like, we live in that shit. Like, nobody's going to be offended in the jury. We're Boston folk. That's why they call us massholes. So, yet to be determined, right? I mean, I felt the same way you did, Jason. It's like, man, you don't go after first responder like that. It's going to rub the jury the wrong way, but maybe not. I don't know. We'll find out. Shannon, I'm here for the chat, the commentary, and trial. In that order, hit that like button. And Blue, thank you so much, Shannon. We appreciate you so much. Carol Altman, Bob, why do you think the defense team participated in the documentaries? I think I got to that a little bit. I think I talked about it at length. So, again, like, they didn't know that this thing was going to be a mistrial. I mean, how can you ever know that? But it seems like maybe they should have thought a little bit more about it, and more importantly, should have negotiated that in the event there is a mistrial, this thing's got to get shelved until after the next trial. I mean, they've just created so much extra shit for themselves. Amy, I threw that up. Thank you for being an OG. Gigi, for the Bob Senior Puppet Fund, Dee Dee is my favorite. I'm going to give you all a Bob Senior Puppet for sure tomorrow. I obviously want to do it during the trial. Bob's impressions are the best. Thank you. Allie is a bae. Yes, she is. Chad is the best. Yes, they are. Yes, y'all are the best. Kara, new member. Oh, family hug. Welcome. We love having you. Kasha, does Stanky Brennan really have fans? I'm sure he does. And thank you for your generosity, Akasha. Jen Bowers, new member. Oh, family hug. Welcome. Thank you. Jennifer J25, $5 holla. Appreciate you, Jennifer. Thank you so much. And then Lisa, so sorry to hear about your grandmother. My sincere condolences go out to you. It sounds like she lived a good full life. So there's always that you can hang your hat on, but help soften the blow a little bit. I just try to look at deaths of, and I'm to that age where sadly they're becoming more frequent. I've been to more funerals this year than I have in my entire life, because it's getting to that point in my life. So, I try to look at it as a celebration of life. If they lived a good, long, full life, you'll always have those memories. So my condolences, Lisa. 90% of defendants who do not testify are found guilty. So why is testifying as a defendant such a no-no, especially if you're innocent? A defendant, such a no-no, especially if you're innocent. All right, so the easiest way to answer that is because typically there's way more to lose than there is to gain by putting your defendant on, because remember, testimony isn't like you get to get up there and give a testimonial. Like you are being direct examined. Every single word that you say out of your mouth as a defendant up there can be misconstrued, twisted, and you always have to consider how that person's going to stand up under cross-examination. I mean, think of it like this. Like, think of it not in terms of a criminal case, but like you're in an argument, say with your significant other, and that person is accusing you of something that you didn't do. Think about how defensive you get. That's instinct. And if you think that that is not the case on the stand, you'd be sorely mistaken. It's exactly like nothing changes. Just turn up the heat by 1,000,000 degrees. So, I mean, typically, other than self-defense cases wherein you really need your defendant to get up there, or consent in a sexual assault type case. I try to avoid like the plague putting my defendant up there because of the things that I just said. Plus, you always run the risk, is your client likable at first blush? Because if you don't have a likable defendant, if they don't come off as a likable person on the stand, that does not help you. Because again, we're human beings and the jurors are factoring that in terms of demeanor. It's just where there's way more to lose. That's why. That's why. I mean, look at the Richard Allen interviews. It's like I don't care what side of that thing you're on. I'm watching those interviews, and I mean, he came off as like a totally normal dude to me. And you can't and you have that dilemma. You can't argue a negative. How are you supposed like what you know what I mean? It's just like there's so many landmines with putting a defendant up there. I mean, we could do an entire live on that thing, but love you, Tammy. Movie line from Airplane. Tammy, I'm gonna tell you right now, you are definitely a movie buff because you're always on the list. And I know like sometimes like y'all may like beat one another and get in the movie line in terms of putting the movie lines when I ask for it. But I know you're not looking at the other people's chat because it comes so quick in order. So the movie buffs out there, I know you. I see you. I'm a movie buff. So I always appreciate that. So, and thank you so much for your generosity. I appreciate it so much. Hi, Bob Love DD. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for all you do. Do you prefer Lally's incessant throat clearing or Hank's whining? Ooh, wow. Oh, man. That's what they call a Hobson's choice. Like where there's really no choice at all. I mean, Hank has toned it down. I mean, dude's got a nasal voice. There's no question about that. There's nothing he can do about what God gave him in terms of his pipes. So it is what it is. I think Hank's really toned it down, but he's on direct. You don't get to see Hank's fangs until he's on cross. That's when it's way easier to be critical because direct examinations are just pretty standard fare. Like you don't need to get emotional on direct. Where the question always is raised is how do I handle this cross examination? Whether I go in aggressively, whether I go in passively, do I have to go in with kid gloves, depending on what the witness is testifying about and who they are in relation to the victim? Those things all really only have to do with cross. So we got to wait and see. We'll see what Hank does on cross. The fangs will come out then. Because remember, dude's a defense attorney. He's got it in him. Because you saw with United today. United is a very even keeled guy, but he can turn it up. We saw it. And I know that there's people out there that were in the chat that are very much of the mindset that Karen is factually innocent of this. They were like, "Ooh, is he being a little tough on this guy?" I mean, and it's a fair assessment. It's a fair assessment. Even though I've got Boston lawyers telling me, they love it. They live for it. They want to hear the fireworks. Maybe. Again, we're talking about 12 individuals. You may have a grandmother on there whose grandson is an EMT who takes umbrage to the fact that he's coming after her. You don't know. You just don't know. I mean, they should know in terms of the attorneys, but maybe not that in depth. I don't know how in depth they got in these voir dires. So, I mean, it's like, that's the fascinating stuff about trials, y'all. It really is. It's like it's the human condition. It's a human condition under a microscope. And we all just love watching it. So you guys have been amazing. Let me double check. Mods, thank you so much. I love you all. You guys are wonderful. Jim Y came in this morning with a $5 Venmo. Will anything come from impeachments? Is it worth going after them? lied to the grand jury during trial 1, trial 2. Jim from chat. Thank you so much, Jim. I think I addressed that. I mean, I think you can make the point, which I think that was made. The question's going to become, did he do it too aggressively? Because Yannetti could have certainly made that point without going at him hard. You know, and it's so hard to know who to go after hard and who not to. You know, I mean, if you have a clearly like just evasive witness, that's when you go in hard. Because the jury is seeing that that witness is becoming resistant. They're going to wonder why. And so that opens the door, in my estimation, of going after a witness harder. If you've got a witness that just kind of stays like deer in the headlights and you're hammering away on him, it probably is not the move. But again, we're super early in the trial. To be honest, you know, like these early witnesses are going to be vague memories by the time this thing is all done. It's like I'll quiz y'all, and I expect you not to cheat. When we get to say week 8, I'm going to ask y'all who the third witness was and what did they testify about. You know, I mean, the jurors, sure, they're jotting down notes, but in terms of the impact it had on you emotionally, that fades. So it's a long trial. It's going to be exciting. But mods, again, once again, thank you so much for all of your hard work. I adore you so much. And you guys, I adore you as well. I missed having my better half with me today. I was grateful that Josh was able to spend some time with us. The guys, if you take the time, like if you're a little irritated that I've paused it and Josh is talking, do yourself a favor and just listen to what the man says. Dude preaches truth all the time. Him and I are cut from the same cloth. That's why I love having him on here. A really bright guy, and he's just as genuine as you're going to get. Super knowledgeable about everything. Josh is never talking out of turn in terms of what goes on in these courtrooms. So, you know, I hope that you guys appreciate that, because I sure the hell do. I sure the hell do. All right, y'all. I love you. Thank you, because without you, I'm just an old man talking about Karen.